Chapter 727. He knocked on the door of the Mother of Bloodbath's room and found that it was not inside. He went to the training room on the third floor that had been specially built for the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer. Back then, Hu Quan had spent a lot of effort and resources to build specialized training rooms for the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer. The walls of the training room were paved with radium uranium steel, the hardest of all diamond rank metals. The training room built with radium uranium steel allowed the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer to display their strength to the fullest. When he arrived at the Mother of Bloodbath's training room, he found that the door was closed. He knocked on the door and in less than 10 seconds, the Mother of Bloodbath opened the door in its human form. Since the Mother of Bloodbath was in the training room, it did not carry out any camouflage. Its red hair, red eyes and red leather armor made it look exceptionally stunning. He had seen the Mother of Bloodbath's form many times. It could even be said that he was the first person to see the Mother of Bloodbath transform into a human. After all, he had helped the Mother of Bloodbath survive its second world cleansing. When the Mother of Bloodbath saw that it was Lin Yuan who knocked on the door, it opened the training room's door completely. "It's rare that you don't stay in your room and come out for a walk. Come on in." Lin Yuan listened to the Mother of Bloodbath's words and could not help but feel a little embarrassed. He was merely working hard in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, and he seemed to have been mistaken as a nerd. When he entered the Mother of Bloodbath's training room, he found many holes on the surface of the radium uranium steel on the walls. He took a closer look and found that these holes did not look like they were caused by the stings on the Mother of Bloodbath's legs. Instead, they looked more like the bite marks of a snake's teeth. This was because the holes on the radium uranium steel walls were arranged in groups of 2, and they were symmetrically concave. Upon seeing Lin Yuan looking at the hole in the radium uranium steel wall, the Mother of Bloodbath explained. "The 3 bronze/legend red water blood snakes you gave me previously have all been refined into external blood bones." While speaking, a huge amount of blood energy emerged from the Mother of Bloodbath's body. Immediately afterward, 3 snake-shaped shadows appeared behind the Mother of Bloodbath. The 3 crimson snake-shaped shadows surrounded the Mother of Bloodbath, as if they were protecting it, but also like shadow assassins waiting for an opportunity to kill their prey at any time. Immediately afterward, the Mother of Bloodbath's eyes flickered with a terrifying red glow, and the 3 snake shadows turned into 3 scarlet snakes that were nearly 15 meters long. These 3 scarlet snakes looked very different from the original scarlet water blood snakes. Each snake's head had a sword horn that looked like a sharp blade. The snake scales on its body were like bone protrusions the size of a fist, looking full of power. There were also several sharp stingers on its tail. Lin Yuan looked at the 3 15-meter-long red water blood snakes and knew that the sword horns on the snakes' heads were evidence of the nightmare bloodline. Clearly, when the 3 red water blood snakes were transformed into the Mother of Bloodbath's external blood bones, they had completely stimulated the Qi bloodline in their bodies. As the Mother of Bloodbath's external blood bones, the 3 red water blood snakes were injected with the Mother of Bloodbath's spider teeth, which were equivalent to being injected with the Mother of Bloodbath's bloodline. The fusion of the Mother of Bloodbath's bloodline and the Nightmare bloodline finally formed these 3 terrifying red water blood snakes. Lin Yuan hurriedly congratulated the Mother of Bloodbath. These 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones should have reached the strength of a myth breed, right? The 3 red water blood snakes refined by the Mother of Bloodbath with its external blood bones were equivalent to a part of the Mother of Bloodbath's abilities. Therefore Lin Yuan could not accurately check it using true data. When the Mother of Bloodbath heard Lin Yuan's words, a trace of joy appeared on its cold face. It said happily, "Thanks to you, these 3 red water blood snakes have been promoted from bronze to legend. Otherwise, the Nightmare bloodline would never have completely awakened when it fused with my spider teeth. Instead, it would have suppressed the bloodline in my body." At this point, the Mother of Bloodbath's expression became faintly disdainful. The Nightmare is considered a type of dragon species bloodline, and the hornless dragon also has the qualifications to become a main dragon species. However, the Nightmare bloodline is still a little inferior to mine. Now, the 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones can reach my own strength. However, I didn't expect to need to consume more blood energy after activating the myth breed's exclusive skill, external blood bones. Moreover, in the process of increasing my strength, the 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones need to increase at the same time as my strength. At this point, the mother of bloodbath looked at Lin Yuan with a complicated expression. In other words, I need to consume 4 times the blood energy to increase my strength in the future. Now it seems that even increasing my strength to Myth 3 can be considered a big problem, let alone becoming a creation breed. When Lin Yuan heard the mother of bloodbath's words, he did not feel melancholy. Instead, he was exceptionally surprised. In other words, after refining the 3 red water blood snakes, your exclusive skill external blood bones has 4 times the strength before. Every red water blood snake has the same combat power as you? The mother of bloodbath nodded in response. The mother of bloodbath raised its hand, and the 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones turned from corporeal to blood-colored shadows. You can say that, but the red water blood snakes only have my melee ability. They are considered an extension of my body. These 3 red water blood snakes can't use my own abilities and exclusive skills. Upon hearing the mother of bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan felt that it did not affect him at all. He knew how strong the mother of bloodbath's melee ability was. In normal battles, the mother of bloodbath's abilities were either to control the blood in the opponent's body to play a certain killing and control role, or to increase its own strength. When the mother of bloodbath really fought, it still relied more on its body. Now that the mother of bloodbath's individual combat power had greatly increased, Lin Yuan felt that it was completely appropriate even if it needed to consume 3 times more resources than before. The stronger the mother of bloodbath's individual strength, the higher its chances of successfully surviving the world cleansing and the creation tribulation. Moreover, the heaven and earth fey blood brew grapevine grew wildly and could produce enough blood brew grapes. With a large supply of blood brew grapes, the mother of bloodbath could always successfully advance to Myth 3. As for the mother of bloodbath's need for the power of law after advancing to Myth 3, Lin Yuan felt that it was not impossible to collect it through his hard work. Lin Yuan asked the mother of bloodbath again. If I advance to Myth 3, will the consumption of the power of law also double? End of this chapter. Chapter 728. The mother of bloodbath nodded and then shook its head. The power of the law indeed needs to be doubled because each red water blood snake refined by the external blood bone has 1/3 of the blood law energy imprint in its body. If you want to evolve into a creation breed, the power of the law in the 3-tailed red water blood snake's law energy imprint also needs to be enhanced. However, compared to blood energy, the power of the law after advancing to Myth 3 doesn't need to be 3 times more than before. It only needs to be twice as much. Lin Yuan nodded. Each of the 3-tailed red water blood snakes refined by the external blood bone had 1/3 of the blood law imprint in their body. The 3 tails added up was exactly the complete blood law, which just happened to be twice as much as before. He had asked the princess to purify a portion of the law crystal for the mother of bloodbath to become a creation breed from the law crystals and law source crystals in preparation. Purifying 2 portions was also in preparation. Lin Yuan clenched his fists and said firmly, I'll try to prepare the power of the law you need to become a creation breed before you advance to Myth 3. Lin Yuan's words made the mother of bloodbath's expression suddenly stifled, and it felt incredulous. The mother of bloodbath knew best how much power of the law it needed to become a creation breed. Even the Moon Empress would not easily promise such power of the law. However, after being Lin Yuan's path protector for so long, the mother of bloodbath knew that Lin Yuan never lied. He would definitely be able to do what he said. Looking at Lin Yuan's firm eyes, the mother of bloodbath's heart couldn't help but feel warm. The mother of bloodbath realized that it had not helped Lin Yuan out of danger many times as his path protector, but it was accepting Lin Yuan's kindness almost all the time. From the moment he moved into the mansion, Lin Yuan had never been stingy with the spiritual materials he needed to improve his strength. The mother of bloodbath did not even remember how much the spiritual materials needed to improve its strength had cost. Moreover, the mother of bloodbath's current strength improvement and the 3-tailed red water blood snakes refined by the external blood bone were all thanks to Lin Yuan. Now Lin Yuan was determined to build a path to the heavens for himself. Before the mother of bloodbath could speak, Lin Yuan placed 2 fey storage boxes on its hand. Lin Yuan said to the mother of bloodbath, One of the Fey storage boxes contains the 20 Dead Fantasy Breed Fays, while the other contains the Blood Brew Grapevine's first batch of Blood Brew grapes and its old leaves. Take it and use it first. I'll send you the next batch of Blood Brew grapes after they ripen. After saying that, Lin Yuan left the bloodbath and left. Lin Yuan said, I'll give it to you. After Lin Yuan established faction Sky City Bath and started Lin Yuan God and God. However, the feeling of earning money to support an entire force was actually not bad. After Lin, he said the blood boff the Fey storage box. God. 1 Lin Fantasy. After Lin Yuan left, the mother of Bloodbath picked up one of the Fey storage boxes to check. The mother. When King, the mother of the spirit, mother of Fedbath's spirit, it. However, when the mother of Bloodbath checked the contents of the other Fey storage box, it froze on the spot. Looking at Lin Yuan's disappearing figure, the mother of Bloodbath felt for the first time that Lin Yuan's figure was broad and full of strength. This feeling made the mother of Bloodbath feel a little strange. It was true that it felt close to Lin Yuan, but as a suzerain 7/Myth 2 Fey, its strength had been enhanced today. Why did it feel a sense of security from Lin Yuan? This sense of security made the spider feel at ease. Not to mention the fact that these 4 bunches of grapes were astonishingly large. The blood energy contained within each grape was like a stream of blood energy. Just the blood energy contained in those 200+ old blood brew grapevine leaves was enough to raise the mother of Bloodbath's strength visibly. The mother of Bloodbath, which had been using spiritual ingredients that contained blood energy, swore that it had never used spiritual ingredients that contained so much blood energy. The blood energy contained in these 4 bunches of blood brew grapes and over 200 old blood brew grapevine leaves was comparable to the blood energy in the dark sea blood mosquito that had helped him advance to Myth 2. At this rate, he only needed another 12 to 13 portions of the blood brew grapes and blood brew grapevine's old leaves that Lin Yuan had given him today to successfully reach Myth 3. The mother of Bloodbath suddenly felt that it was not as difficult to advance to Myth 3 after using the external blood bone to refine 3 scarlet water blood snakes. However, to the mother of Bloodbath, the faster it improved its strength, the better. Because only by becoming stronger would he be able to better fulfill his responsibilities as a path protector. However, when it thought of the path protector's duty, the mother of Bloodbath somehow recalled Lin Yuan's reassuring sense of security. Lin Yuan left the mother of Bloodbath's training room and was about to return to his room when he saw Duan He standing at the door. When Lin Yuan saw Duan He pacing at the door of his room, it was obvious that something was waiting for him. Lin Yuan walked up and asked Duan He, Senior Duan He, where is Senior Violet Demon? In Lin Yuan's impression, Duan He and Violet Demon had always been inseparable. Duan He scratched his head a little awkwardly. Violet Demon's personality in the Dark Element Skull was too sickly. Staying with Violet Demon made Duan He feel a lot of pressure. Last night, Violet Demon had a dream, in which he seemed to have peeked at other female snakes. Ever since Violet Demon had woken up from her dream, she had given him a beating. Now she was still treating him coldly. What kind of suffering was this? However, he had to dote on this wife that he had been looking forward to for decades. Duan He walked up to Lin Yuan, took out a Fey storage box and 2 brocade pouches that were filled to the brim, and handed them to Lin Yuan. Young master, didn't you ask me to help you collect the Law Origin crystals? Coincidentally, Indigo Azure Guard Elder Xing contacted me 2 days ago. He wanted me to go to Indigo Azure City to help clean up the dimensional rift outside the city, but I refused. When I refused, I also probed about exchanging the Law Origin crystals. In the end, I only offered a chance to enhance phase to Bronze/Epic. The Indigo Azure Guard Elder, Xingjiao, immediately agreed to exchange 3 Law Origin crystals for 1 Bronze/Epic Fey. At that time, Young Master said that 1 Law Origin crystal could be exchanged for a Bronze/Epic Fey. When I saw that the price was 3 times lower than Young Master's offer, I immediately decided. End of this chapter. Chapter 729. Duan He raised the brocade pouch in his hand and said, There are 60 Law Source crystals in each of these 2 brocade pouches. There are 60 Law Source crystals in each of these 2 brocade pouches. That's a total of 120 in total. Indigo Azure Guard Elder Xing also sent 40 Bronze/Epic Phase. I just happened to send them to young master. After sending them to young master, I have to hurry back to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Purple Demon and Endless Summer are overseeing it. The three of us carried out a major purge of the Zheng family's forces last night, including the two Zheng family chambers of commerce and a mercenary group that we didn't touch before. Lin Yuan took the Fey storage box and brocade pouch from Duan He. He had ordered Endless Summer and Duan He to clean up all the Zheng family's businesses in the royal capital. It was also considered revenge for the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's spirit chi professionals who had died at the hands of the Zheng family. The Zheng family and the Miao family's forces were not in the royal capital, which was Lin Yuan's territory. Since Lin Yuan was destined to have a big conflict with the Zheng family, it was very necessary to clean up the enemy forces in his territory before the conflict started. If the Miao family joined the battle later and Endless Summer became a creation breed, Lin Yuan would also order Endless Summer to clean up the Miao family's forces in the royal capital. Lin Yuan would also order Endless Summer to clean up the Miao family's forces in the royal capital. The reason Lin Yuan did not let Endless Summer attack the Miao family's forces now was that he was not sure if there were experts guarding the Miao family's businesses in the royal capital. Therefore, Lin Yuan would not let Endless Summer risk her life and attack the Miao family without knowing the enemy's strength. In the past, Lin Yuan had mostly been more passive. After experiencing 2 attacks with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce as the main battlefield, Lin Yuan's mentality had changed. In Lin Yuan's opinion, being passive would only allow one to be beaten. When it was time to attack, he had to take the initiative. After all, it was either one of them dying in a battle between factions, and there was no room for contempt or carelessness. Lin Yuan was pleasantly surprised that Duan He had brought him 120 law source crystals and 40 phase waiting to be enhanced to bronze/epic. Ever since Lin Yuan had asked Duan He to help him collect law source crystals, Duan He would occasionally help him collect a few. However, the number in the past was only 2 or 3, far less than this time. The top factions did not have the most law source crystals in the world, but the Radiance Federation's 36 main cities. In particular, the guard captain of the main city's city guard, Zhu Li, had the best chance of collecting a large number of law origin crystals. After hundreds of years, the major cities, the city guard captain, the pearl dimensional captain, the guard captain, had accumulated countless law source guards. However, Lin Yuan did not have many connections with the main city's guards. Duan He had been helping out the Indigo Azure guards in Indigo Azure City all year round, so he should be on good terms with the Indigo Azure guard captain. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Duan He to do business with the officials. Guards was the guards. With guards. Of guards in Dao God. Faction of sect guards of the demons. The sect who of 2 crystals of 1 have brothers. If the law origin crystals that were gathering dust in the warehouse could be converted into bronze/epic phase, not only could they increase the overall strength of the Indigo Azure guards, but they could also increase the overall strength of the Indigo Azure guards. Crystals of masters. Lin Yuan and Du Immortal Nursery had also traded with the Blissful Sea clan. However, it was 1 bronze/epic fey in exchange for 1. The Indigo Azure guard captain's offer was 3 times that of Lin Yuan and Du Immortal Nursery's deal with the Blissful Sea clan. If Lin Yuan could maintain such a deal with the Indigo Azure guard for a long time, the law source crystals that contained pure power of law would be 3 times faster than before. The mother of bloodbath's problem of needing double the power of law to refine the blood bone would be solved. Senior Duan He, did the Indigo Azure guard captain set a date for the deal? Duan He asked awkwardly. Old Xing doesn't believe everything I say, but I've been in Indigo Azure City for so many years and I have a lot of faith. In addition, I told Old Xing that Purple Demon had successfully reached Myth 2. That's why he was willing to bring the law source crystals in advance. However, Old Xing said he hopes to get this batch of bronze/epic phase 2 months before the dimensional rift closes to reduce the pressure on the Indigo Azure guard during the closing phase of the dimensional rift. Duan He was speechless. This Old Xing was also a scammer. There were less than 4 months before the active phase of the dimensional rift. It was too hasty to get an order for 40 bronze/epic phase in a little over a month. Upon hearing Duan He's words, Lin Yuan was rather excited. He smiled and said to Duan He, Senior Duan He, please make another trip in 2 days. When the time comes, help me deliver this batch of epic phase to the Indigo Azure Guard captain, and help me tell him that I look forward to working with him again. Lin Yuan's words made Duan He think that he had misheard. Why did Duan He feel that enhancing a bronze/epic Fae was as easy as when Purple Demon had hit him? It was unknown how many King-class experts wanted to nurture a bronze/epic Fae but were unable to do so. At that moment Lin Yuan thought of something. With a flip of his hand, a huge blue and white porcelain jar appeared in his hand. Lin Yuan said as he handed the porcelain jar to Duan He. Senior Duan He, the spirit siphon goldfish that I promised you before. Duan He looked at the spirit siphon goldfish in the porcelain jar, and his eyes were about to fall to the ground. It had only been a few days and the spirit siphon goldfish, which was harder to enhance and grade than normal phase, had been enhanced. Duan He couldn't help but feel that it was really cool to have a big tree to lean on. This feeling was simply awesome. Chilling to the heart and soaring to the sky. With this bronze/legend spirit siphon goldfish's primordial spirit conversion and the thunderhorn sky rumbling conch, Purple Demon could assist Purple Demon. With the enhanced endurance, Purple Demon could freely use elemental energy to bombard a large area and didn't need to worry about the spiritual power consumption in its body. Duan He felt that if he had this spirit siphon goldfish earlier, he would have been able to accumulate a considerable amount of wealth even if he used bricks in the dimensional rift to nurture Purple Demon. After sending off Duan He and returning to his room, Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone again and prepared to work hard. After entering the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, Lin Yuan released the 40 phase that needed to be enhanced from the phase storage box. Lin Yuan realized that the 40 phase were all the same. They were all standard healing type phase, the Hot Spring Slug. The Hot Spring Slug was a healing type Fae, and its healing ability was only effective on external injuries. Although its healing ability was monotonous, its healing ability on external injuries was astonishing. End of this chapter. Chapter 730. The Hot Spring Slugs had become standard phase because they had a very special point. As long as it was a healing-type Spirit Chi professional, even if the healing-type Spirit Chi professional had a special affinity with certain phase, they could still form a contract with the Hot Spring Slug. This was very similar to Hu Quan's contracted Vitality Sloth. The Indigo Azure Guard's orders were all Hot Spring Slugs that had a strong healing ability on external injuries. This also showed how dangerous it was for the Indigo Azure Guards to clean dimensional rifts. The Indigo Azure Guards and the Spirit Guards of the Spirit Guards were the same. However, the Spirit Guards dealt with all the vicious incidents in the Radiance Federation and looked more legendary. On the other hand, the Indigo Azure Guards had been guarding the people in Indigo Azure City for generations. Both were essentially the same and equally great. Lin Yuan was determined to nurture this batch of Hot Spring Slugs well. Although he thought so, he regretted summoning 40 Hot Spring Slugs at once. The Hot Spring Slugs had a nice name, but they looked really ugly. They were like colored snot that was crazily swinging on the ground. After crawling slowly, they would leave behind sticky water on the ground. Lin Yuan stored the 40 Hot Spring Slugs in the phase storage box. At that moment, Lin Yuan walked to the spirit pool and found that the first batch of 11 Reflection Sun King Lotus seedlings had grown from the size of a fingernail to the size of a watermelon. These Reflection Sun King Lotuses that had been divided had officially become normal eye/normal heaven and earth phase under true data. Lin Yuan was prepared to enhance these Reflection Sun King Lotuses. After enhancing them to bronze, he could put them into the underground spaces construction. When Lin Yuan picked up the Reflection Sun King Lotus and injected Spirit Chi into it, everything was very real. There was nothing strange. However, when he enhanced the Reflection Sun King Lotus all the way to bronze, he found that it gave him a huge amount of spiritual power in one go. This allowed the total amount of spiritual power in his body to increase by a lot. When Lin Yuan enhanced phase and raised their quality, there was no spiritual power feedback. Only when raising the grade of the Fae would Lin Yuan receive the corresponding spiritual power feedback and increase the amount of spiritual power in his body. However, during this period of time he had been setting up Sky City's strategy and collecting large amounts of resources, so he simply did not have the time to rely on upgrading the bronze Usnias to silver to slowly increase his spiritual power like before. This caused the spiritual power in Lin Yuan's body to stagnate. However, such a shocking change had occurred when he was enhancing the Heaven and Earth Fae, the Sun Reflection King Lotus. Lin Yuan made a rough estimation in his heart. Enhancing this Reflection Sun King Lotus would increase the amount of spirit qi in his body, which would be equivalent to the total amount of spirit qi feedback from around 70 bronze usnias to silver. He hurriedly picked up another Reflection Sun King Lotus seedling and enhanced it. As a result, after the Reflection Sun King Lotus was upgraded to bronze grade, it still provided Lin Yuan with a large amount of spiritual power. While he smirked, he could not help but wonder why such a situation had occurred. There was no way he could ask someone else about such a question. Unless there was a second person in the world like him, who could rely on his body to absorb the surrounding spirit qi, compress the surrounding spirit qi, and inject it into the Fae's body to induce the Fae to evolve. Lin Yuan had obtained many Heaven and Earth Faes. The cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia, the twin red pagoda, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, the floating island whale gray which had transformed from a cloud crane to a sky cloud crane, the blood brew grapevine, and the Reflection Sun King Lotus were the Heaven and Earth Faes that Lin Yuan now possessed. Apart from the floating island whale that had yet to hatch, gray, and the 99 Reflection Sun King Lotuses that Lin Yuan had, the other Heaven and Earth Faes were already of very high grade after Lin Yuan had obtained them. Lin Yuan did not have the opportunity to upgrade those Heaven and Earth Faes grades. He guessed that after he upgraded them, the Heaven and Earth Faes would provide him with more spiritual power than ordinary Faes. Or perhaps only the Heaven and Earth Fae, the Reflection Sun King Lotus, had such an effect. It was easy for Lin Yuan to verify all of this. According to the current state of Gray's eggshell, the feathers on the surface of the evolving Gray's eggshell were already a little loose. It seemed that Gray should be breaking out of the shell soon. At that time, Lin Yuan only needed to enhance Gray to confirm his opinion. Lin Yuan still had 97 Heaven and Earth Faes, the Reflection Sun King Lotus seedlings, that could be upgraded. Sensing the spirit qi content in his body, Lin Yuan felt that he would be able to successfully become a B-rank spirit qi professional after enhancing about 80 Heaven and Earth Faes, the Reflection Sun King Lotus. Lin Yuan did not know how long he had been looking forward to this. Putting aside the fact that once he became a B-rank spirit qi professional, the Faes he could control would be upgraded to platinum. If he could upgrade them, it would not be impossible for him to have a diamond/fantasy breed Fae. This way, his strength would be able to obtain an unprecedented increase. Moreover, the upgrade of the Spirit Qi Professional's grade was equivalent to speeding up the speed of Lin Yuan's body injecting Spirit Qi into the Fae's bodies. After becoming a B-rank Spirit Qi Professional, Lin Yuan would not need dozens of minutes to enhance Faes to Bronze/Epic. This would greatly improve Lin Yuan's work efficiency and multiply his speed of accumulating resources. To be honest, Lin Yuan's body was already a little overwhelmed by the fact that he was cooperating with the Dew Immortal Garden, the Sea of Bliss, and the Indigo Azure Guard at the same time. Following this transaction with the Indigo Azure Guard, the Indigo Azure Guard would likely expand the scale of their transactions. At that time, it would be very difficult for Lin Yuan to take down the Indigo Azure Guard's orders. However, Lin Yuan still could not cut off the cooperation with the Dew Immortal Garden and the Sea of Bliss. Although the Indigo Azure Guard would give more abundant resources, Lin Yuan could not guarantee that the Indigo Azure Guard would stop the transaction with him one day. It was always good to have more opportunities. Moreover, Lin Yuan still planned to empty the veteran faction, the Sea of Bliss. After thinking about it again and again, Lin Yuan felt that he could put other things aside first. The most important thing was to increase his strength to a B-rank Spirit Qi professional. Previously, Lin Yuan had always felt that the path from a C-rank Spirit Qi professional to a B-rank Spirit Qi professional was very far, and he did not know when he could complete the promotion. But now Lin Yuan had accidentally found a shortcut and it was right in front of him. Lin Yuan had to grab the shortcut no matter what. Lin Yuan continued to enhance the remaining 9 Reflection Sun King Lotuses in the Spirit Pool to bronze. Then he stored the 9 Reflection Sun King Lotuses and the 2 that he had enhanced previously into the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. End of this chapter. Chapter 731. Then he took out a new batch of Reflection Sun King Lotuses. However, the new batch of Reflection Sun King Lotuses were only the size of a fingernail. they wanted to become phase, they would need the nourishment of pure spirit qi. Lin Yuan immediately circulated the spiritual power in his body and nurtured them one by one. He first nurtured the fingernail-sized reflection Sun King lotuses into watermelon-sized normal phase before nurturing them all the way to bronze grade. The process of nurturing them into phase would consume a lot of time. However, Lin Yuan didn't need to raise the quality of the reflection Sun King lotuses to bronze grade. Therefore, in around 25 minutes, a young reflection Sun King lotus would be able to evolve from a young Fei to bronze grade. In fact, Lin Yuan could choose to upgrade the bronze reflection Sun King lotus to silver grade. This would speed up Lin Yuan's advancement as a spirit qi professional. However, Lin Yuan thought for a moment and held back. After entering the Celestial Council and understanding Bei Su's life, Lin Yuan's horizons had broadened. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the reflection Sun King lotus was no longer a simple heaven and earth Fei that he could use as a small sun in the underground space. In this world, apart from the prosperous Radiance continent, where the Radiance Federation was located, other continents had underground worlds that couldn't see the light. In such a world, the heaven and earth spiritual treasure, the sun reflection monarch lotus, could be called the most precious thing. Therefore, Lin Yuan decided to upgrade his 99 reflection Sun King lotuses from bronze grade to legend and then enhance them step by step. With the 99 reflection Sun King lotuses evolution, Lin Yuan had already decided to collect more heaven and earth phase. Lin Yuan felt that his spirit qi professional grade was about to accelerate and take off. Seeing that Lin Yuan was focused on nurturing phase, Genius and Chimey would sensibly pluck a few leaves from the soldier ration radish every once in a while and feed them to Lin Yuan. They allowed Lin Yuan to replenish some nutrients in water. At that moment, Lin Yuan had worked for a full 32 hours without sleep or rest. Just as Lin Yuan upgraded the 83rd reflection Sun King lotus to bronze grade, he suddenly felt the thick mist-like spirit qi in his body rapidly tremble. The thick mist-like spirit qi gathered together, and more mist-like spirit qi surged in Lin Yuan's body. As the mist-like spiritual energy continued to gather, a rain of spiritual power slowly began to fall. When the spirit qi rain in Lin Yuan's body stopped, the originally viscous spirit qi turned into a crystal-clear spirit qi liquid in Lin Yuan's body. When the atomized spirit qi in Lin Yuan's body transformed into spirit qi liquid, it also indicated that Lin Yuan had become a true B-rank spirit qi professional. After becoming a B-rank spirit qi professional, Lin Yuan let out a breath of turbid air. Lin Yuan could keenly sense that when he circulated the spiritual power in his body, the amount of spiritual power in his body was more than 10 times stronger than before. When he sensed the spiritual power content in his body, he finally realized that when he had fought with the B-rank spirit qi professionals in the Star Tower, his spiritual power had increased. Why were B-rank spirit qi professionals wantonly commanding Feis to release abilities without any restraint? If he had so much spiritual power in his body, he wouldn't have to be so meticulous with every strand of spiritual power in battle. Of course, it was absolutely beneficial for him to fight above his rank for a long time. It was a habit that Lin Yuan would meticulously calculate every strand of spiritual power he used. This habit was something that spirit qi professionals, who fought with same-grade opponents for a long time, were both envious of and unable to develop. Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power for a while and found that the spirit qi in the spirit lock spatial zone was obviously gathering toward him. Lin Yuan was speechless. The speed at which his body absorbed spiritual power could already affect the flow of spirit qi in the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan took out a hot spring slug from the Fei storage box and channeled the spiritual power in his body into the hot spring slug. As a result, Lin Yuan found that these hot spring slugs' grades were rising at a rocket-like speed. The 40 hot spring slugs that the Indigo Azure Guards used for trading were all normal. Therefore, when Lin Yuan enhanced these hot spring slugs, he had to choose exclusive skills for them. Lin Yuan raised the hot spring slug's grade to elite/epic. Then, when it reached bronze, he chose one of the 3 exclusive skills that were most suitable for treating external injuries on the battlefield. Only then did he upgrade this hot spring slug to bronze X/epic. The deal between Lin Yuan and the Blissful Sea Tribe and the Sun family was to upgrade the phase grade to epic quality, and the phase grades would no longer be increased. However, Lin Yuan did not make any exception and upgraded all the hot spring slugs that the Indigo Azure Guard sent over to bronze X/epic. This was also Lin Yuan's way of showing his appreciation to the Indigo Azure City's Indigo Azure Guards. After a series of enhancements, Lin Yuan found that it took him less than 10 minutes to upgrade a hot spring slug from normal I/normal to bronze X/epic. Based on this speed, Lin Yuan could be sure that his current speed of enhancing phase was about 8 times faster than before. It would now take Lin Yuan less than a day to enhance a bronze/epic phase. Lin Yuan originally thought that he would not be able to enhance the hot spring slugs in time for his agreement with Duan He, so he was prepared to use a spirit chi crystal. After all, he was a man of his word and he could not easily go back on an agreement. But now it seemed that there was no need to use the spirit chi crystal at all. After Lin Yuan finished enhancing 40 hot spring slugs, he only used a total of over 6 hours. After exiting the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan, who had not slept for nearly 2 days and 2 nights, placed the Fey storage box containing the hot spring slugs at the door of his room. He stuck a note on the Fey storage box for Duan He and fell into a deep sleep. While sleeping, Lin Yuan had a faintly discernible look of joy on his face, and the corners of his mouth were slightly curled up in his sleep. After becoming a B-rank spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan could quickly complete the orders with other factions and continue to spend more time on life like before. During this period of continuous busyness, Lin Yuan really felt that he was a little like a robot. After waking up, Lin Yuan took good care of himself. At the same time, he asked Chime to cut his hair with its beak. Lin Yuan felt that his hair was a little too long during this period, and it was already past his ears. Over the years, Chime had always been the one to take care of his hair. Moreover, Chime's aesthetics were very good, and it was also very easy to cut his hair with its beak. After Chime finished cutting Lin Yuan's hair, Lin Yuan looked at himself in the mirror and revealed his small white teeth. So handsome. End of this chapter. Chapter 732. After leaving the room and going downstairs, Lin Yuan found that the completely jade-textured pearwood table beside the water rhinoceros leather sofa was already full of papers. Stacked together, the pages almost reached the ceiling. Lin Yuan walked over and saw Wen Yu, whose eyes had turned black behind the pile of papers. When Wen Yu heard the sound, she looked up and saw Lin Yuan, who had cut his hair, and her spirit jolted. Wen Yu wasn't a love-struck fool. She didn't even care about a person's appearance. However, when she saw Lin Yuan, who had cut his hair, she felt that it was hard for her to move her gaze away from him. Before getting a haircut, Lin Yuan's hair was past his ears, giving his youthful aura a hint of scholarly aura. But now he had cut his hair short above his ears. Lin Yuan's scholarly aura had transformed into a sunny vitality. Furthermore, Lin Yuan had a natural freshness that made people unconsciously have a good impression of him. Coupled with Lin Yuan's perfect facial features, it was truly impossible to shift one's eyes away. If looks could also be used in combat, even if Black's identity was a combat genius, he would not be able to defeat Black. However, the combat power of Lin Yuan's Black identity might not necessarily be as good as his looks. Upon seeing Lin Yuan walk over, Wen Yu hurriedly stopped arranging the pages in her hands and said to Lin Yuan, "That's right. Young master, in the past 2 days I've not only sorted out the information on the Sun family's due Immortal Garden, but I've also sorted out the Sun family's due Immortal Garden. Regarding the Blissful Ocean tribe, the Miao family and the Jing family, I've also filtered and processed the information." As she spoke, Wen Yu looked at the pile of papers in front of her and felt a little awkward. Using the source paper's exclusive skill Heaven Listening Secret Manual, to gather information was akin to a paper rain. This torrential rain of paper lasted for more than 2 days. Under such circumstances, he would not be able to finish flipping through them in 2 days, let alone looking through them one by one. Wen Yu shook her head, hoping to suppress the exhaustion from not sleeping for 3 days. "Young master, let me introduce the situation of the Sun family to you. The Sun family's situation is special." Although he could not finish reading the contents of the paper mountain in 2 days, they were all in her head. Normally, he would definitely be willing to discuss the situation between the major factions with her. Every time he discussed the situation of the major factions with Wen Yu, her views on the operations between the factions would benefit him a lot. Just by looking at the bruises under her eyes, Lin Yuan knew that she had not rested since he had asked her to check on the Sun family's intelligence. He really could not bear to let Wen Yu explain the Sun family's situation to him. Wen Yu, let's try to communicate in another way. After speaking, Lin Yuan said to Genius, who was in his embrace. Smart, use the interconnected tail. After Genius received Lin Yuan's command, its snow-white fur suddenly turned sparkling and translucent. If Genius was said to be a cute white kitten previously, then every strand of fur on Genius' body now seemed to be carved from crystals. There was a faint silver flowing within the crystals. Then Genius' blue eyes turned vertical, and one of its 5 fluffy tails fell off from its body. Genius' tail that had fallen off stretched out and became a sparkling and translucent chain. One end of the bond was connected to Lin Yuan, while the other was connected to Wen Yu. It had not been long since Genius became a fantasy breed, and it was Lin Yuan's first time using the interconnected tail after becoming a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan realized that Genius' exclusive skill, the interconnected tail, was not exactly the same as Morbius true data. Although the effect was similar to true data, there were some details that could not be displayed in written true data. For example, the interconnected tail allowed the two sides to communicate with each other, but the information exchange authority at the two ends was different. The end of the interconnected tail that had fallen off from Genius was called the front end, and the back end was called the end. The front end of the interconnected tail could choose to share information or not to share information with the end. For example, if there was a plate in front of the person at the front end, the person at the front end could freely filter out the thoughts into the plate and pass it to the other end. Although the end could also choose, the choice was much smaller than the front end. The end could only choose whether to open up its thoughts for interaction and could not filter its own thoughts. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was at the front end, had already received a large amount of information from Wen Yu's thoughts. Through the interconnected tail, Wen Yu and Lin Yuan's brains seemed to have fused together. Lin Yuan instantly grasped some information that was originally complicated and difficult to express. After getting hold of the intelligence that Wen Yu had sorted out in the past 3 days, he cut off the end of the connection and said to Wen Yu, I already know about the Sun family and the latest movements of the Blissful Sea tribe, the Zheng family and the Miao family. You haven't rested well these past few days. Go get some sleep. It's been hard on you. You don't have to work so hard in the future. As the front end of the interconnection tail, Lin Yuan did not exchange any information with Wen Yu. Therefore, Wen Yu did not feel anything after choosing to exchange information with Lin Yuan. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Wen Yu was still a little confused. However, upon hearing that Lin Yuan had grasped the information, Wen Yu was ready to take a good rest. The long hours of fatigue and the high concentration of collecting information made Wen Yu feel a little dizzy when she thought about problems. After Wen Yu returned to her room, Lin Yuan turned to look at Genius. Smart, do you think I'm handsome? As the terminal, Wen Yu was exchanging information with him, which meant that she was completely open to him. After understanding what was going on in Wen Yu's mind, Lin Yuan could not help but marvel at Wen Yu's intelligence. After sorting out all the information in her mind, Wen Yu still made such a diversified analysis. Although this analysis was based on the information in Lin Yuan's opinion, this analysis was even more precious than the information itself. When Genius heard Lin Yuan's question, it did not speak the human language and only meowed. The interconnected tail that was connected to Lin Yuan's body shrunk into the shape of a tail and grew back to Genius. Genius swayed its small tail and did not understand why Lin Yuan would ask such a question. In Genius's world, Lin Yuan and Chimey were the pillars and were unique existences. Chimey was a girl, so in Genius's world, Lin Yuan would always be the most handsome and Chimey would always be the most beautiful. Although neither of them was a cat, after Lin Yuan asked the question, he subconsciously reached out and scratched the back of his head. He felt that his question was really too silly. Lin Yuan sat on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and carefully thought about the information he had received from Wen Yu. End of this chapter. Chapter 733. The Zheng and Miao families were absolute enemies to Lin Yuan. Wen Yu had already sorted out the Miao family's biography when she was looking at the Miao family's information. The Miao family had reported 2 Emperor-class experts to the Radiance Federation, which was why Lin Yuan had not let Endless Summer rashly attack the Miao family. Now, the intelligence on the Miao family and the Zheng family had been revised by Wen Yu. Through Wen Yu's revised intelligence on the Miao and Zheng families, Lin Yuan had a better understanding of their internal situation. From Wen Yu's thoughts, Lin Yuan knew that she guessed that the person who had written the letter in the messenger pigeon was the Zheng family's third young master. Based on her thoughts and the details in the notebook, Lin Yuan felt that her guess was very likely to be true. When Lin Yuan thought about the blissful sea tribe's intelligence and recent movements, the corners of his mouth curled into a meaningful smile. Lin Yuan did not expect the blissful sea tribe to spend a lot of money to buy several islands protected by the 5 emperor's mercenaries in the distant sea in the past few days. He was also preparing to build a large-scale fishery for angelfish of bliss around the island. In order to ensure the safety of the far sea fishing grounds once and for all, the blissful sea clan's cash flow had been halved by the 5 emperor's mercenary group. The peak faction, the 5 emperor mercenaries, could be considered a legend in the mercenary world. They were also the only peak faction that specialized in mercenaries. In the beginning, the 5 Emperors Mercenary Group wasn't called the 5 Emperors Mercenary Group, but the 3 Emperors Mercenary Group. The reason why they were called the 3 Emperors Mercenary Group was because there were 3 Emperor-level experts overseeing the group. With the development of the past few decades, 2 peak-level emperors from the 3 Emperors Mercenary Troop had advanced to the Overlord rank and ascended to the Emperor rank. From then on, the 3 Emperors Mercenaries changed their name to the 5 Emperors Mercenaries. As the only peak mercenary force, the 5 Emperors Mercenary Group was able to have such a high prestige in the mercenary world. Apart from being strong enough, it was mainly because of the 5 Emperors Mercenary Group's integrity. Quests that couldn't be accepted would be directly rejected. As long as he could complete the next mission 100%. Lin Yuan had been worried about the Blissful Sea Tribe's huge cash flow as a veteran faction. Now it seemed that he had worried too much. Even if he monopolized the Bliss Pollen in the market, he could not guarantee that there would be no Aurora Pollen in the market. It was just that the price of the Aurora Pollen had increased exponentially. In fact, the amount of Aurora Pollen circulating in the market had decreased, making it difficult for the Blissful Sea Tribe to trade for it at a high price. Money makes the world go round. If the Blissful Ocean Tribe had enough cash, they would be able to survive for a period of time. However, now that the Blissful Sea Tribe was building a large number of breeding bases and cutting off his cash flow, it was also a great help to him. From Wenyu's message, he could feel that the Blissful Sea Tribe seemed to have placed all the pressure on him. They actually brought the contract with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden to the Spirit Guards to cause trouble for the Beast Creation Garden, demanding that the Beast Creation Garden compensate for the Blissful Ocean Tribe's losses. Everyone could see that the Blissful Sea Tribe had decisively cut off all of their marine fae breeding businesses except for the Angelfish of Blissful. It was true that the Beast Creation Institute had suppressed the Blissful Ocean Tribe, but it wasn't to the extent that the Beast Creation Institute would cut off their own business. But the Sea of Bliss tribe extorted the Beast Creation Garden. With the Spirit Guards as a guarantor, even if the Beast Creation Garden was a top faction, they could only swallow this loss. The Blissful Sea Tribe had made a brilliant move. But wasn't the Blissful Sea Tribe afraid of the Miao family's revenge? Now Lin Yuan somewhat understood why the Blissful Sea Tribe had spent so much money to buy the island protected by the 5 Thearch's mercenaries. It seemed that the Blissful Sea Tribe wanted to use the 5 Thearch's mercenaries to prevent the Blissful Sea Tribe's revenge. However, was it appropriate for the Blissful Sea Tribe to place all the pressure on him? Lin Yuan also operated Sky City. If Sky City was at a dead end, perhaps Lin Yuan would give it a try. He would fight for a future. But now, under the premise of stable development, the Blissful Sea Tribe's future was placed on the shoulders of an unfamiliar faction. Such a move was too crazy in Lin Yuan's opinion. Could even be said that they had lost their mind. Moreover, the Blissful Sea Tribe had placed all the pressure on him, but they had cheated him during the transaction. What kind of magical move was this? Lin Yuan felt that if the Blissful Sea Tribe collapsed in the end, he would only get half of the credit. Lin Yuan felt that it was most appropriate to give the remaining half of the credit to the Blissful Sea Tribe. Lin Yuan didn't think much of the Miao family, the Zheng family, and the Blissful Sea Tribe's information. However, the Sun family's Immortal Garden's information was too shocking. Lin Yuan didn't expect that one of them controlled more than 60% of the plant phase in the market. In fact, the top faction, which monopolized the supply of dozens of plant phase, was actually empty to the point that there were only 3 core members left. Moreover, the old ones were injured and the young ones were young. The Immortal Garden was basically relying on Sun Ningxiang alone. She mediated between the factions that wanted to swallow the Du Immortal Garden or bite off a large piece of its flesh. After understanding the Du Immortal Garden's situation, Lin Yuan could understand why the Miao family wanted to swallow the Du Immortal Garden. Even Lin Yuan was somewhat envious of the Du Immortal Garden's cash flow. The Du Immortal Garden, which had monopolized dozens of spiritual ingredients in the market, was completely qualified to raise the price. However, after the Du Immortal Garden encountered difficulties, it didn't make the decision to raise the price of the monopolized spiritual ingredients. Thus, Lin Yuan could feel the Du Immortal Garden's kindness. If the Du Immortal Garden raised the price, the monopolized spiritual ingredients prices would skyrocket. Then, every industry chain that relied on these spiritual ingredients would collapse. The collapse of each chain would affect countless people. Lin Yuan's targeting of the Blissful Sea clan was because the Blissful Sea clan was courting death. Lin Yuan was only relying on the monopoly of the Aurora pollen, a spiritual ingredient. This showed the Sun family's Du Immortal Garden's strength and influence on the market by monopolizing dozens of spiritual ingredients. After understanding the Du Immortal Garden's information, Lin Yuan found that it was not realistic for him to monopolize the Aurora pollen. Although the Du Immortal Garden did not monopolize the Aurora pollen, its flower fields were planted with a massive amount of Aurora morning glory. It firmly occupied more than 20% of the market supply of Aurora pollen. Therefore, if Lin Yuan wanted to monopolize the Aurora pollen, he could not bypass the Du Immortal Garden. After all, Lin Yuan was not the Aurora pollen's producer, and his monopoly mainly relied on the Aurora pollen's extremely long cycle of maturing once every 2 years. If the Blissful Sea clan could establish a relationship with the Du Immortal Garden and obtain its supply of Aurora pollen, they could completely bypass Lin Yuan's monopoly of the Aurora pollen and let the Blissful Sea clan survive. This was something that Lin Yuan absolutely did not want to see. End of this chapter. Chapter 734. Fortunately, Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang were now in a cooperative relationship. After understanding the Sun family's information, Lin Yuan found that the Sun family did not only have the Du Immortal Garden. There was also the Du Medical, but it had been discontinued after the Sun family's mishap. Many factions had various functions. Apart from the Chamber of Commerce, mercenaries and breeding bases also had medical functions. Just like the tournament champion, the Rhine Guild Club, behind it was a powerful top faction with medical functions. It occupied the top 5 positions among the top factions all year round. However, the Du Immortal Garden's Du Medical was different from other medical organizations. It was not profitable and was considered a charity organization. It supported a large number of low-rank healing-type spirit chi professionals. Most of these healing-type spirit chi professionals were C or D, and there were very few B-rank spirit chi professionals in the Du Immortal Garden. His contracted phase were mainly at bronze and silver. These low-rank spirit chi professionals were rooted in various places in the Radiance Federation's 32 major cities under the Du Immortal Garden's support. It helped the poor who were not even spirit chi professionals and the low-rank spirit chi professionals who were seriously injured but could not afford the medical fees for free treatment. When Lin Yuan had been struggling to survive with Chu Ci, he had also received such free treatment. Although Lin Yuan did not know if the Du Medical had helped him at that time, he had to admit that he admired it. The rich would help the world and the poor would take care of themselves. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the Sun family's Du Medical could be called Radiance's warmth, allowing every corner of the Radiance world to have a clear light. As for who in the Sun family was injured, there was no information in Wen Yu's mind. It only mentioned that the Sun family's matriarch had killed 3 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters as an Emperor-class expert when the Sun family was in danger. One of the 3 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters had an Emperor-class combat power, but he had been killed by the Sun family's matriarch. It could be seen how powerful the Sun family's matriarch was. However, the Hidden Moon Pavilion's information did not record the Sun family's matriarch's specific injuries. Obviously, the Sun family's matriarch's injuries should be considered the Sun family's top secret. From Sun Ningxiang's desire for the Vitality Camellia, he could roughly infer that the Sun family's matriarch's injuries were certainly not optimistic. As an Emperor-level expert, the spiritual power in his body was like a vast ocean. Normally, the spiritual power in his body would constantly nourish his body. But even in this situation, the muscles of the Sun family's old grandmother still withered and rotted. It seemed that if the Sun family's matriarch didn't receive treatment in time, she wouldn't live long. It was even possible that the old matriarch of the Sun family was already on the verge of death. After understanding the Sun family's Immortal Garden's information, he made slight adjustments to Sky City's strategic layout. Lin Yuan thought to himself, "Looks like I might be able to reach a deeper cooperation with the Sun family's Immortal Garden in the future." If it was Lin Yuan or Sun Ningxiang who didn't understand the Sun family's condensation treatment, when facing the Sun family's situation, Lin Yuan might also choose to take a bite of the cake. He even wanted to see if he could swallow the entire congealing Immortal Garden. But after learning about the Sun family's condensed Immortal Garden and its healing property, radiant warmth, instead of thinking about swallowing the Sun family, Lin Yuan felt that a deeper cooperation for a win-win situation was a better choice. In Lin Yuan's faction, he was the only resource exporter and receiver in Sky City. Although Master Hong Shen and Hu Quan could also create a price, the value created by Master Hong Shen and Hu Quan could not even guarantee the internal consumption of Sky Castle. If he could have a deeper cooperation with the Sun family's Immortal Garden, he could completely expand Sky City's industrial chain. Sky City was the upstream that exported high-end phase, while the Immortal Garden was the downstream that managed thousands of Fey breeding bases that specialized in nurturing Feys. If they cooperated, they could directly connect Sky City's Fey functions to form a complete industry closed loop. Lin Yuan wanted to go to the Divine Wood Federation, which had the most plant Feys. At that time, the Sun family's tens of thousands of breeding bases could be put to great use. Moreover, with a deeper cooperation with the Sun family, Lin Yuan could also use the Sun family's hundreds of years of connections and resources. They could help him find the spiritual ingredients he needed, as well as the law source crystals and law crystals. This way, the sacred source life form, the sacred sword-wielding queen, could also accelerate its rise in stars. Although he had only used the holy sword-embracing queen's dress in her holy sword queen form, he had never used the holy sword edge in her holy sword form. However, just the dress queen's ability alone made Lin Yuan experience an earth-shattering change. As long as Lin Yuan had law crystals and law source crystals, he could mass-produce the power of law. If the current one-star queen could become a three-star existence and become an existence in its growth period, the sacred sword-wielding queen would each have a function in its princess form and sacred sword form. Lin Yuan was looking forward to the queen's new function. Recently, Lin Yuan sensed that the queen, who had eaten a large number of law fragments and law source crystals, was already faintly moving toward 2-star. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was refreshed, realized that he had been so busy that he had not gone to the Radiant Moon Palace to see his master, the Moon Empress, for some time. During this process, Lin Yuan also had many questions that he wanted to ask the Moon Empress. When he arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace, he went straight to the inner palace. When he arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, he found that the Moon Empress was not the only one there. At the same time, there was also a tall and somewhat fat old man who looked unusually kind and amiable. The old man shouted at the top of his lungs, "Moon Empress, I'm telling you, don't even think about leaving with the last spirit savory pig. So what if your disciple likes to eat? It wasn't easy for me to snatch it from my disciple's hands." As he spoke, the old man could not help but reveal a puzzled expression. After his little disciple came back, he seemed to have gone crazy. He used so many spirit savory pigs to practice. He wanted to improve the method of braised pork, but he didn't know who to give it to. How could red braised pork be as delicious as double-cooked pork? This is really strange. The Moon Empress had already seen Lin Yuan, who had arrived at the inner palace, and she beckoned for him to come over. The Moon Empress said as she glanced at Chef Supreme, "How can your disciple compare to my disciple? But your 3 disciples are quite filial to you," Yi Zichen said. Chef Supreme blushed when he heard the Moon Empress words. He could tell that the Moon Empress was being sarcastic. His eldest disciple challenged his limits every day, even though it was to increase his strength. Although it was to increase his strength, every challenge was too extreme, and it was no different from suicide. He couldn't be at ease even for a minute. His second disciple opened a chain restaurant, the Spirit Food Pavilion, but he used his name to let the world think that the Spirit Food Pavilion was opened by him. He used his name to crazily make money. His third disciple was the most worrisome. Not only did he abduct his precious daughter, but he also had a bad temper. His precious daughter did not help him at all and eloped with his third disciple. If he did not compromise, he would not even be able to see his daughter. These days were simply too bitter. In the past it was fine when the Moon Empress did not have a disciple. Now she had a disciple and it seemed that she was very satisfied with her disciple. This made Chef Supreme feel even more unbalanced. Chef Supreme looked up at Lin Yuan, ready to see what kind of person the Moon Empress had chosen as her disciple. When Chef Supreme saw Lin Yuan, he felt that his temperament was excellent, but Lin Yuan was stunned when he saw Chef Supreme. Lin Yuan almost blurted out and called her Auntie Zhang. However, Lin Yuan held back the words. The explosive update is completed. After knowing that there was a recommendation, he had been working during the day and barely slept at night to write 10 updates. Button's journey has been super tortuous. Thank you for everyone's constant company and support. Button will continue to work hard to write the rest of the story. I hope that those who like this book can give Button a full subscription and support him so that he can go further. In addition, please ask for recommendation votes, monthly votes, subscriptions and gifts. I'm done updating. I'm going to sleep. I hope everyone has a good time reading. End of this chapter. Chapter 735. Lin Yuan fixed his eyes on the old man in front of him. The more he looked, the more he felt that this old man was a male version of Auntie Zhang. Or rather, Auntie Zhang looked decades older after becoming a man. Although Auntie Zhang and this old man had different heights and figures, their facial features were as if they were carved from the same mold. The Radiance Federation had a large population, so it was not strange to have two similar people. However, such similar facial features could only be related by blood as long as they were not deliberately imitated or disguised. When Lin Yuan arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, he heard the old man say, "Don't even think about leaving with the last spirit savory pig." Lin Yuan had heard his master mention the spirit savory pig, and he had eaten it before. He had even been full of praise for its taste. Naturally, he knew the old man's identity from the conversation between his master and the Moon Empress. This old man was Chef Supreme, one of the Radiance Federation's 3 Class 5 creation masters like his master. However, Lin Yuan was a little curious. What was the relationship between Chef Supreme and Auntie Zhang? Immediately after, Lin Yuan thought of Auntie Zhang's endangered fantasy breed Fae that had mimicked the terror rabbit. It was also because Morbius had just woken up that Lin Yuan had accidentally checked the terror rabbit's information out of curiosity and found out that Auntie Zhang was a person with a story. Lin Yuan did not have too many guesses about the relationship between Auntie Zhang and Chef Supreme. Now, Uncle Li would basically call Lin Yuan every other week. When Chu Ci was around, Lin Yuan and Auntie Zhang would chat for half an hour together. When Chu Ci was not around, Lin Yuan would chat with Uncle Li and Auntie Zhang for half an hour. Lin Yuan decided to ask Auntie Zhang and Auntie Zhang the next time he contacted them. Anyway, Lin Yuan had nothing to fear from elders like Auntie Zhang and Uncle Li who had watched him grow up. After seeing Lin Yuan, Chef Supreme felt that Lin Yuan had an excellent temperament at first. However, after realizing that Lin Yuan was staring at him, Chef Supreme also looked at Lin Yuan a few more times. After these few glances, Chef Supreme suddenly felt that Lin Yuan was very familiar. After thinking about it again, Chef Supreme, who was a Class 5 creation master, shivered and felt that the air in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace was faintly cold. Chef Supreme hurriedly withdrew his gaze from Lin Yuan and looked awkwardly at the Moon Empress. "When I get back, I must beat up that traitorous disciple 8 times. It's all thanks to the fact that after I accepted my first and second disciples caused me quite a bit of trouble." After taking in a little disciple, he was always on tenterhooks, so he swore that he would never take in another disciple again, completely cutting off all thoughts of taking in another disciple. Otherwise, if I really listen to my eldest disciple and interact with this youth in front of me, I will become the one who is trying to poach the Moon Empress disciple. If the Moon Empress were to find out, it would be disastrous. Given the Moon Empress temperament, even the kitchen fragrance palace would be destroyed by her. Ever since the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan walk into the inner palace, her attention had been on him. Therefore, he did not notice the change in Chef Supreme's expression. Upon seeing Lin Yuan staring fixedly at Chef Supreme, The Moon Empress recalled the information Mystic Moon had compiled about Lin Yuan before accepting him as a disciple. He immediately knew what was going on. However, this was a family matter regarding the Chef Supreme, so it was not convenient for the Moon Empress to point it out to Lin Yuan. When the Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan's lips were a little dry, she picked up the smooth jade teapot from the table. He poured the spirit tea from the teapot into the exquisite teacup on the table. Immediately after, she handed the exquisite teacup to Lin Yuan and said, "You're welcome. Drink a cup of pine needle dew tea to moisten your throat. Now that winter is turning into spring, the weather is relatively dry. You should also pay attention to drinking more water." After Lin Yuan took the pine needle lotus dew tea poured by the Moon Empress, she turned to Chef Supreme and said, "Master, I'll be fine. Chef Supreme, this is my disciple and also my only disciple." Although Chef Supreme's face did not change, he felt as if he had bumped into a ghost. Chef Supreme was all too clear about the Moon Empress' temper and character. He was a powerful existence in the Radiance Imperial Court who dared to flip the table over a single disagreement. However, the domineering Moon Empress was actually so gentle to her disciple. Furthermore, from the word "only" in the second half of the Moon Empress words, it was obvious how much she valued Lin Yuan. The reason why a top powerhouse would accept a disciple was to find an inheritance. The reason why Chef Supreme accepted a disciple after his eldest disciple was that he found that his eldest disciple would not inherit his skills at all. Instead, he was trying to pull me over to learn his creation master theory. Under such circumstances, Chef Supreme accepted his second disciple. In the end, his second disciple learned his creation master theories and realized that he was not interested in creation master abilities. He only liked to cook, so he went into business and opened the Spirit Food Pavilion. His third disciple perfectly inherited his legacy, and Chef Supreme could tolerate it even if he had to be on tenterhooks all day long. However, after the Moon Empress accepted one disciple, she cut off the idea of accepting another disciple. It was obvious how satisfied the Moon Empress was with her disciple. Thinking about the Moon Empress proposal in the previous Imperial Court meeting, the meaning was self-evident. It was obviously to pave the way for her disciple. At the same time, it also showed the Moon Empress trust in Lin Yuan. The Radiance Envoy's path could never be paved. One had to have true ability to walk step by step. What the Moon Empress gave Lin Yuan was nothing more than to help a rising star like him fight for a fair opportunity. After the Moon Empress introduced Lin Yuan to Chef Supreme, she turned to Lin Yuan beside her and said, "You will be going to the Outer Realm for training. You'll be going to the Outer Realm to train. You haven't met Supreme Chef yet. Go and greet him." Lin Yuan immediately walked in front of Chef Supreme and gave him a junior's salute. Junior Lin Yuan greets Chef Supreme. Chef Supreme's brows twitched wildly when he heard what the Moon Empress said to Lin Yuan. This sentence seemed to be said to Lin Yuan, but the Moon Empress was saying it to him. She was hinting that Lin Yuan was going to the Outer Realm for training and was giving him something useful for the training. After seeing Lin Yuan give a junior's salute, Chef Supreme immediately waved his hand, and a small golden toad appeared in his hand. "This is our first meeting. This little thing made of the treasure cave golden toad's stomach sac and skin will be my gift to you." As he spoke, Chef Supreme recalled what his eldest disciple and daughter had said when they had asked him to accept Lin Yuan as a disciple. His gaze toward Lin Yuan involuntarily became kind. When the Moon Empress, who was standing next to Lin Yuan, saw the greeting gift from Chef Supreme, her usually calm face showed a hint of surprise. After Lin Yuan thanked Chef Supreme, he had already taken the small golden toad from Chef Supreme's hand. When Lin Yuan used True Data to look at this small golden toad, a look of surprise immediately appeared on his face. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 736. When Chef Supreme took out the little golden toad, Lin Yuan felt that it was full of vitality. Moreover, the golden toad's big eyes were very lively, as if they were going to jump up and land on the tip of his nose at any time. When Chef Supreme said that this little golden toad was made from the treasure cave golden toad's stomach sac and skin, Lin Yuan knew that this little golden toad was not a living creature. However, he had never heard of a fae like the treasure cave golden toad. It might not have been long since Genius became a fantasy breed and transformed into the internet beast, but Genius had already read all the books on faes on the star web. He had also completely grasped the knowledge of a Class 4 fae observer. When Lin Yuan heard the words treasured cave golden toad, he had already communicated with Genius in his mind. Genius was very unfamiliar with the treasured cave golden toad. It was obvious that Genius had never come into contact with any knowledge regarding the treasured cave golden toad. When Lin Yuan used True Data to check, he immediately knew what use this little golden toad had. No wonder Genius did not recognize the treasured cave golden toad. It was not a spiritual creature. It was a sacred source life form. The Moon Empress looked at Chef Supreme and said, "You really put in a lot of effort. You're actually willing to give such a strategic treasure to my disciple as a greeting gift." Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Chef Supreme revealed a kind smile and said half-jokingly, "Even if I can't bear to do it now, I can't go back on my words and take back the gift I gave to the younger generation." Supreme Chef had never thought of himself as a generous person. Class 5 Creation Masters were the pinnacle of the Radiance Federation's Creation Masters. There were countless pinnacle factions and experts from all walks of life who wanted to seek Chef Supreme's help. If Supreme Chef was a generous person, he would have died of exhaustion by now. It was also common for experts to exchange greeting gifts after accepting disciples. For example, Chef Supreme's 3 disciples, the Moon Empress, gave each of them a greeting gift after meeting. In fact, Chef Supreme had no intention of giving the treasure cave golden toad's skin and stomach to the Moon Empress disciple. However, after knowing who the Moon Empress disciple was, Chef Supreme recalled what his daughter had said when she had forced him to accept Lin Yuan as her disciple. "Old Li and I don't have children. We have always treated Lin Yuan as our junior." Chef Supreme only had one daughter, so apart from his own little disciple, Lin Yuan could be said to be the person closest to Chef Supreme among the younger generation. This precious artifact made from the skin and stomach of the treasure cave golden toad was best used for long-distance teleportation. It could be used to train outside the city. Supreme Chef had intended to leave such a precious tool for his little disciple. However, after witnessing his little disciple's ability to court death, Chef Supreme felt that sending his little disciple to the outer realm to train was tantamount to letting his little disciple court death. That was why Chef Supreme had given such a precious artifact to Lin Yuan as a meeting gift. It could also be considered as letting the Moon Empress owe him a favor. The Moon Empress looked at the treasure cave golden toad, which was a sacred source life form, and solemnly said to Chef Supreme, "Thanks a lot." When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress words, he immediately knew that this treasure made from the treasure cave golden toad's stomach, sac and skin should be abnormally precious. Otherwise, with her master status, the Moon Empress would not have thanked Chef Supreme. However, Lin Yuan did not feel that the effects of this treasure cave golden toad's precious artifact were that amazing. However, it was undeniable that this treasure cave golden toad's precious artifact had indeed solved one of Lin Yuan's problems. During long-distance teleportation, spatial equipment like the Fey storage box could not be used. This was considered common sense, and Lin Yuan had long known this. In fact, Lin Yuan was not very worried about this. When training in the outer realm, he could put spatial equipment like the Fey storage box in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. That way, there would not be the slightest problem during the teleportation process through the spatial tunnel. However, in terms of teleporting people, Lin Yuan had not found any better method apart from using spatial spiritual ingredients. After all, spirit chi professionals could not be stored in the Fey storage box like Feys. Although the spatial tunnel could be used as a portal between the Radiance Federation and the Divine Wood Federation, during each teleportation process, when the spatial energy accumulated in the spatial tunnel was exhausted, Lin Yuan would need to use a large number of spatial spiritual ingredients to replenish the spatial energy consumed in the spatial tunnel. Although the spatial tunnel could also self-recover the spatial energy consumed, it would take a very long time. Although the space tunnel could also recover the consumed spatial energy, it would take a long time for it to do so. The spatial tunnel had not been established yet, so Lin Yuan did not know how many units the spatial tunnel could teleport at one time. However, Lin Yuan was sure that there would not be many units that could be teleported. Given the ethereal jellyfish's current silver eye/legend strength, Lin Yuan felt that the spatial tunnel could not even teleport him over. Lin Yuan planned to enhance the ethereal jellyfish's strength before opening the spatial tunnel. The ethereal jellyfish was a spatial teleportation source-type life form that his master, the Moon Empress, had given him. It was a precious strategic class resource. The precondition for the ethereal jellyfish's contract was to concoct a spirit fluid made of spatial spiritual ingredients. Such a spirit fluid could only be concocted by Class 5 creation masters. Although Lin Yuan could produce a large amount of pure spirit qi that even Class 5 creation masters could not concoct, he could not concoct a Class 5 spirit fluid with spatial spiritual ingredients. The ethereal jellyfish and the acid corrosion queen bee were very similar in that they could not fuse with a contractor's willpower rune. Instead, it needed to increase its strength to Diamond X/Legend like a wild fae before it could comprehend a willpower rune from the natural world and become a fantasy breed. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to increase the ethereal jellyfish's strength to the limit that he could withstand at present, which was Platinum X/Legend. This way, the ethereal jellyfish's exclusive skill, Spatial Tunnel, could be maximized. Lin Yuan had previously wondered if he could let others enter the Spirit Lock spatial zone to teleport them. However, after this idea appeared, Lin Yuan immediately rejected it. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Morbius' existence was a secret that was more important than the Sacred Source Lifeform's Sacred Sword-wielding Queen's function. It would not be revealed to anyone. Therefore, he could not let others enter the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan originally wanted to transfer the people of Sky City to the Divine Wood Federation through the spatial tunnel, but he could only consume a large amount of spatial spiritual ingredients. However, the treasure cave golden toad's skin and stomach pouch that Chef Supreme had given him could store spirit chi professionals like the Spirit Lock spatial zone. However, the space inside the treasure cave golden toad's relic was very small, only about 2 cubic meters. Could only store 10 people at most. The second was even smaller. End of this chapter. Chapter 737. Furthermore, the treasure cave golden toad's relic was an inanimate object and could not evolve like the Spirit Lock spatial zone. The Moon Empress relic was so precious, yet it was so different from Morbius' Spirit Lock spatial zone. This made Lin Yuan even more confused about what kind of existence Morbius was. Lin Yuan touched the extremely soft treasure cave golden toad relic and gently squeezed it. It felt as though he was touching a layer of skin. It was extremely soft. It had to be said that the treasure cave golden toad's relic had touched upon Lin Yuan's knowledge blind spot. Lin Yuan had been a spirit chi professional for a long time, and in this 1 year Lin Yuan's horizons had grown rapidly. Even some king-class experts' lifetime horizons could not compare to the horizons that Lin Yuan had gained in a year. However, Lin Yuan had never heard of using spiritual ingredients to create a relic. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan looking at the treasure cave golden toad relic in deep thought, she explained, "Sacred source lifeforms, phase and source-type lifeforms are different. After killing the spirit chi professional that contracted the sacred source lifeform and obtaining the corpse of the sacred source lifeform, a special spiritual ingredient will be able to inherit a small portion of the sacred source lifeform's abilities. Specific spirit materials separated from the corpse of a sacred source lifeform can inherit a small portion of the sacred source lifeform's power. In the hands of a Class 5 creation master, this spiritual ingredient can be used to create a relic. However, after creating a relic, the sacred source lifeform's abilities will be greatly reduced. The remaining abilities will not even be 1% of the original abilities." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately understood what was going on with the relic. It turned out that a relic could only be created with spiritual ingredients from a sacred source lifeform. At the same time, Lin Yuan also learned about the other ability of a Class 5 creation master, which was to use spiritual ingredients from a sacred source lifeform to create a relic. A Class 5 creation master's ability to use spiritual ingredients from a sacred source lifeform to create a relic was something that Lin Yuan did not possess. This made Lin Yuan realize that the distance between him and a true Class 5 creation master was not as simple as enhancing a phase grade. Lin Yuan's face revealed a bright smile, revealing his white teeth as he spoke to the Moon Empress and the Chef Supreme. "Master, I understand. Thank you for your kindness, Chef Supreme." The Chef Supreme looked at the intimate interaction between Lin Yuan and the Moon Empress. One was willing to teach and the other was willing to learn. Then, thinking of his 3 troublesome disciples, Chef Supreme felt a headache coming on. Supreme Chef felt that he shouldn't stay here and watch other people's master-disciple relationship anymore. Looking at the deep relationship between a master and his disciple was simply asking for trouble. Moon Empress, you didn't look for me just to let me meet your disciple and give him a greeting gift, right? Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress knew that Chef Supreme was about to leave, so she started to talk about business. Qingyue has also taken in a disciple. In 10 days, a great Nix assembly will be held in Yiyang Palace. Don't be absent then. When Chef Supreme heard that, his kind face immediately turned cloudy and he gave a cold snort. What does Knight Qingyue taking a disciple have to do with this old man? Furthermore, the dimensional rift is currently active. Why isn't Night Leaning Moon overseeing the land of spirit suppression? Why did she move back to Night Glory Palace? The Moon Empress looked at Chef Supreme helplessly. She knew that Chef Supreme and Night Leaning Moon had always been at odds with each other. The Moon Empress herself wasn't willing to inform Chef Supreme about the Nix assembly. However, the Great Night Assembly this time was of great importance, so Chef Supreme had to attend. The Pagoda Cannon is active again. The main purpose of the Nix assembly this time is for us to meet up and discuss our plans for the Pagoda Cannon. Before Zhi's main body returned from the outer realm, he caught the leader of the 7 Pages of War on the Dark Corrosion continent. Through the leader's memory, he found out about the plan that the Tower Cannon had been plotting for 100 years. It's just that Zhi didn't manage to read the specifics of this 100-year plan from 7th Page War's mind. But this 100-year plan has a name, the Awakening of the Dormant. Although I don't know what this plan is, it has 3 stages: seed, germination and bloom. The 3 stages of this 100-year plan have now unknowingly reached the germination stage. Chef Supreme furrowed his brows and said in a deep voice, "I will arrive at Yiyang Palace in 10 days. As soon as he said that, Chef Supreme's figure disappeared from the back hall of the Radiant Moon Palace. When the Moon Empress spoke to Chef Supreme, she did not turn her back to Lin Yuan. Therefore Lin Yuan also knew about the Tower Cannon's plan. Lin Yuan now had a close relationship with the Tower Cannon. The Suzerain/Myth 2 Night Calamity Crow and the Hunting Ashes in the evolving dimensional rift outside Indigo Azure City were both 7th Page War's subordinates. 7th Page War was also one of the 8 pages of the Tower Cannon. Upon hearing his master, the Moon Empress, mention the plan, Lin Yuan suddenly felt a sense of urgency. Lin Yuan could not help his master, the Moon Empress, with anything now, but he should also prepare. Since the Tower Cannon's plan, the Awakening of the Dormant, was a 100-year plan. From the germination stage to the bloom stage, it would take at least a few decades. It was just that no one could be sure how long it had been in the germination stage. However, Lin Yuan believed that as long as he was given another 3 years, he would definitely be able to help his master. The Moon Empress also had her own plans. For example, when she had mentioned the Tower Cannon just now, she had deliberately not turned her back to Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan wanted to become a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, he would definitely work hard toward becoming a Radiance envoy. If that was the case, it would be good for Lin Yuan to know all of this earlier. The Moon Empress watched as Lin Yuan took out a bottle that contained a mercury-like viscous liquid. At that moment, after the Moon Empress took out the liquid in the bottle, it kept emitting spatial ripples. Fine spatial ripples stacked together, as if hundreds and thousands of spatial flowers were overlapping in the sky. The Moon Empress used her hand to shake the spirit fluid in the bottle, which seemed to activate the spatial activity of the spirit fluid. The hundreds and thousands of space flowers that overlapped outside the bottle instantly turned into an abnormal rain of petals. The Moon Empress said to Lin Yuan, "Xian Yu has already helped you find a place to place the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles in the Divine Wood Federation of the Agawan continent. You can choose to open a spatial tunnel connecting the Radiance Federation and the Divine Wood Federation at any time." The spirit fluid in this bottle was concocted from the half shell of the ethereal jellyfish, a sacred source life form. The spirit fluid in the bottle is enough to strengthen the ethereal jellyfish to Diamond X/Legendary. After speaking about the spirit fluid concocted from the half shell of the ethereal jellyfish, the Moon Empress took out a palm-sized jade bowl. There was a very petite tender yellow plant planted in the jade bowl. However, the tender yellow plant looked like a malnourished weed, but there was a white flower that was bigger than the plant. The flower bud at the front of the flower was already faintly open as if it would bloom at any time. There were many small yellow spots in the white half-flower bud, and at a glance, it was like seeing a sky full of stars during the day. The Moon Empress handed the spirit fluid and the plant to Lin Yuan. This is the starlight jitan. Eat the crystalline pollen in the middle of the starlight jitan's blooming flower, and you will be able to rank up. By then you can let the ethereal jellyfish reach peak diamond so that it can comprehend willpower as soon as possible and increase its chances of becoming a fantasy breed. When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress words, he knew that his master had seen the fact that he had become a B-rank spirit chi professional. Lin Yuan did not refuse the Moon Empress gift and reached out to take the spirit fluid and the starlight jitan. The Moon Empress was very happy to see that Lin Yuan had accepted her gifts. Knowing that Lin Yuan was going to the Divine Wood Federation later, the Moon Empress seriously instructed him. Then she invited Lin Yuan to have lunch in the Radiant Moon Palace and had a question-and-answer session with him before letting him leave. When Lin Yuan returned to the mansion, he saw Master Hong Shen and Hu Quan sitting together. Master Hong Shen was gesticulating excitedly, while Hu Quan, who was sitting at the side and drawing the blueprint, was so angry that his nose was crooked. Chapter 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 738. Master Hong Shen, who was gesticulating, said in high spirits, "Old Hu, 30 meters underground is too shallow. Old Hu, 30 meters underground is too shallow. We have to dig at least 300 meters. Furthermore, the underground space has to be large and sturdy enough. It is best if diamond phase roll around underground and have no impact on the underground space." Master Hong Shen was sloppy and had been busy with something during this period of time without showering. This caused the beard on Master Hong Shen's chin to be bunched up. When Master Hong Shen spoke, the saliva that popped out of his mouth was stuck to his messy beard. He was so excited that he almost grabbed the brush in Hu Quan's hand to help Hu Quan draw the underground space's design. When Hu Quan heard Master Hong Shen's words, he felt as though firecrackers were set off in his head. For some reason, Hu Quan's heart suddenly surged up as he slammed the brush in his hand on the table and said angrily, "Old Hong, 30 meters underground is enough. Old man Hong, 30 meters underground is enough. Do you know that you have to dig 300 meters? The soil layer in the 30-meter underground space already contains a large amount of water vapor. If you dig another meter, the water in the soil layer will seep out. Are you going to create an underground space to nurture phase or an underground reservoir to store underground water? It isn't impossible to dig the underground space to 300 meters, but the surroundings of the underground space have to be reinforced with the platinum metal infiltrated rock steel. Even if you aren't a spirit craftsman, as a Class 4 creation master, you should know the price of infiltrated rock steel. Without infiltrated rock steel to block the underground water, the entire underground space will be extremely damp, let alone diamond phase rolling around inside. Even if a gold earth-type Fae releases an elemental ability, the underground space won't be able to support it. It is easy to dig a deep underground space with oxygen. Most Faes that can release oxygen can replenish the oxygen needed by the underground space, but what about light? Even if you open a few windows in the ground above the underground space, when the sunlight shines down, it can only illuminate a depth of 100 meters. The underground space below 200 meters will still be pitch black. As a Class 5 spirit craftsman, drawing designs was Master Hu Quan's job, and it was something he was proud of. Hu Quan had always hated laymen pointing fingers at him when he was drawing designs. When Hu Quan and Lin Yuan discussed the construction of the hidden Wuxia lake, Lin Yuan's opinions and requests made Hu Quan feel refreshed. He even had a different kind of inspiration in the design. When discussing the hidden Wuxia lake's construction with Lin Yuan's suggestions were often accompanied by a large amount of resources. This allowed Hu Quan to not overcalculate the cost of materials, which would affect the design's exquisiteness. Thus, Hu Quan was very willing to discuss the mansion's construction with Lin Yuan. However, in Hu Quan's opinion, every word that Master Hong Shen said could be said to be an unrealistic and unreasonable request. If Master Hong Shen had not said that the underground space's construction had received Lin Yuan's approval, Hu Quan would not have listened to Master Hong Shen's instructions to draw the design. Master, who didn't, replied, Master Hong, Master didn't said, replied. Master, replied, Master, said. Hu Quan felt that discussing the underground space's construction with Master Hong Shen would not yield any results, so he stood up and said, When Lin Yuan returns, I'll ask him how the underground space should be built. Hu Quan stood up and said, when Lin Yuan returns, I'll ask him how the underground space should be built. Hu Quan immediately saw Lin Yuan, who had just stepped through the door. Hu Quan hurriedly said to Lin Yuan, you're back. Do you have any suggestions or plans for the underground space? Master Hong Shen turned around and saw Lin Yuan. His eyes lit up and he said, young master, I've bought that forest. Young master, I've already bought that forest. I found that the soil under that forest is very fertile, and I also found a nest of earth-drilling earthworms in that land. After special breeding, these earth-drilling earthworms can evolve into rotten earth gnomes. Upon hearing Master Hong Shen's words, Lin Yuan immediately knew why Master Hong Shen wanted to dig the underground space 300 meters below. It was because the gravity attached to the environment 300 meters below was an important condition to induce the earth-drilling earthworms to evolve into rotten earth gnomes. With the rotten earth gnomes, they could have a large amount of soil with high humus. Lin Yuan had also asked Master Hong Shen to conduct a detailed study on the golden lotus brocade plant, and Master Hong Shen had come to the same conclusion as Genius. If he wanted the golden lotus brocade stalk's child stalk to grow quickly, he would need a large amount of soil with high humus content. Otherwise, the golden lotus brocade stalk's mother ramets would absorb the nutrients from the original child ramets before they could grow up. As a result, the child's sprouts withered. Lin Yuan nodded at Master Hong Shen. That's a good job. I'll leave the matter of breeding the earth-drilling earthworm into the rotten earth centipede to you. Then Lin Yuan looked at Hu Quan and said, Uncle Hu, the underground space really has to be 300 meters deep because I want to open a space tunnel underground from the manor to the Divine Wood Federation. When Hu Quan heard the first half of Lin Yuan's words, he still did not quite understand. Lin Yuan would not dig the underground space 300 meters underground just to cultivate the rotten earthworms, right? How much was the humus produced by the soil saprophyte worm worth? Even if it required a large amount of resources, it would not be more than the resources needed to excavate 300 meters underground. When Hu Quan heard that Lin Yuan wanted to open a space tunnel from the manor to the Divine Wood Federation, he immediately knew the strategic significance of the underground space. Given such a strategic significance, it was still very necessary to excavate 300 meters underground. When Master Hong Shen heard Lin Yuan's words, a surprised emotion flashed in his eyes. Master Hong Shen had not been in the manor for a long time and usually did not stay in the manor. Although Master Hong Shen usually got along very well with everyone, he who had just arrived at the mansion could not be sure how deep the relationship between Hu Quan and Lin Yuan was. Therefore, when Master Hong Shen said to excavate 300 meters underground, he did not tell Hu Quan that Lin Yuan wanted to cultivate a large number of golden lotus brocade stalks. The golden lotus brocade stalk was a fei that could make any creation master go crazy, so it was exceptionally precious in Master Hong Shen's eyes. Coupled with the rotten earthworms, Master Hong Shen felt that digging 300 meters underground would not only increase the golden lotus pearl's secrecy, but it would also allow him to cultivate the golden lotus pearl without looking forward to buying humus soil. At the same time, he would not need to look forward to buying humus soil in the process of cultivating the golden lotus pearl. However, Master Hong Shen did not expect Lin Yuan to open a space tunnel in the manor that was connected to the Divine Wood Federation. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 739. Master Hong Shen might have just become a Class 4 creation master not long ago, but his horizons were much higher than the average person. Therefore, Master Hong Shen was very clear that a long-distance space tunnel connecting two federations was a kind of precious strategic resource. Master Hong Shen had always known that Lin Yuan had a lot of resources. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to casually take out a spiritual ingredient from a myth 2 fei that could heal the soul. However, the value of the cold snow pine tree's sap calcined into cold snow pine incense could not be compared to a spatial tunnel connecting two federations. This allowed Master Hong Shen to understand how wealthy the person who had saved him and served him for the latter half of his life was. Hu Quan sat on the water rhinoceros leather sofa again, picked up his pen and spoke to Lin Yuan with a serious expression. He said to Lin Yuan with a serious expression, Lin Yuan, why don't you share your opinion like you did when we built the hidden flood dragon lake? When I draw the design, I can design it according to your opinion. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and waved his hand. A heaven and earth fae, the reflection Sun King Lotus, that he had just nurtured to bronze, was summoned. When Master Zhou Xian, who was sitting on the sofa, saw Lin Yuan take out the reflection Sun King Lotus, he couldn't help but clap his hands and laugh. However, his laughter sounded a little wretched. Master Zhou Xian's eyes were relaxed. As a Class 4 creation master, Master Zhou Xian naturally saw through the reflection Sun King Lotus in Lin Yuan's hand. Master Zhou Xian was originally very worried that the light that Lin Yuan mentioned could not reach the standard of nurturing the Golden Lotus brocade. The Golden Lotus brocade needed a high degree of reliance on sunlight for rapid growth. The Golden Lotus brocade wished that it could be directly exposed to the sun for at least 12 hours a day. Less than that, the Golden Lotus brocade's growth speed would decline sharply. Lin Yuan's reflection Sun King Lotus could effectively solve the underground space's lighting problem after nurturing it. Uncle Hu, this is a heaven and earth fae, the reflection Sun King Lotus. The reflection Sun King Lotus absorbs sunlight during the day, and the lotus root that grows at night is like a small sun. It can satisfy the underground space's sunlight requirement. When building the underground space, I want you to plant the reflection Sun King Lotus at the top of the underground space and hang it upside down like a chandelier. Hu Quan pondered for a moment and said, "That's fine. That's fine, but the underground space can't just have one big room. Making a single space too big will reduce the earthquake resistance of the underground space. If every room in the underground space is shrunk to 200 square meters, and a large amount of high-grade spirit materials are used in conjunction with seeping rock steel, I'm confident that the underground space won't be affected as long as it doesn't face a direct attack from a myth-breed fae." Master Zhou Xian did not understand the work of a spirit craftsman, but he had heard from Hu Quan that each room could not exceed 200 square meters. Master Zhou Xian's originally relaxed brows furrowed again. 200 square meters was definitely not enough to nurture a fae like the Golden Lotus brocade. At most, 200 square meters could only nurture 800 Golden Lotus brocade pearls in one go. Since he had already decided to nurture it, he couldn't possibly nurture too little, right? Master Zhou Xian felt that it wouldn't be a problem for him to take care of the 2,000 square meters of flower brocade pearls. He could even concoct some spiritual liquids to help the angelfish of bliss advance to the platinum level. Upon hearing Hu Quan's words, Lin Yuan replied calmly, "Uncle Hu, you can plant a sun reflection king lotus in every underground space. I have many reflection sun monarch lotuses here." After speaking, Lin Yuan said to Master Zhou Xian, who was at the side, "Master Zhou Xian, if you have the time, please upgrade the reflection sun monarch lotus on the hidden dragon lake to Diamond X/Legend." The reflection Sun King Lotus that Lin Yuan had asked Master Zhou Xian to enhance was the mother plant that he had obtained from Master Duan Li. He had already planted it in the hidden Wuxia lake. Hu Quan was now a Class 4 creation master and had the ability to upgrade phase to Diamond X. Once the underground space was established, all the sunlight would have to be absorbed by the mother plant of the shining sun monarch lotus planted in the hidden dragon lake. At that time, he only needed to guide the roots of the reflection Sun King Lotus mother plant and the roots of the reflection Sun King Lotus seedling growing underground. At that time, even if the flowers of the seedlings did not see sunlight, they could still rely on their connected roots to absorb the sunlight stored in the lotus roots by the mother rhizome. At this moment, the project of laying the sky river stones and embedding the sea-veined stones at the bottom of the hidden dragon lake was almost completed. He would let Master Zhou Xian nurture the reflection Sun King Lotus's mother plant to the peak of diamond and reach a state of complete victory. It would also allow Hu Quan to lead many Grade 3 spirit craftsmen to build a pavilion on the reflection Sun King Lotus. Otherwise, Hu Quan and the others would be delayed. When Master Zhou Xian heard Lin Yuan's instructions, he quickly guaranteed and said, "Leave it to me. Within 3 days I will be able to complete the enhancement of the reflection Sun King Lotus on the hidden dragon lake." For Master Zhou Xian, Lin Yuan's assignment this time was the first mission he had received since arriving at the mansion. Therefore he had to complete it beautifully. After Lin Yuan arranged Master Zhou Xian's work, he continued to speak to Hu Quan. "There are no other construction requirements for the underground space. There are no other construction requirements for the underground space. Of course, if possible, try to strengthen the underground space a little more. Don't be stingy with the use of metal spiritual materials. I think it's a great choice to use the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer as the walls and paving of the radium uranium steel in the training room. Hu Quan coughed lightly when he heard that. Hu Quan already knew Lin Yuan's style. If he wanted to do something, he would do it to the best. The Spirit Craftsman Guild had a large stockpile of metals, including the radium uranium steel. The production of the diamond radium uranium steel was actually not low. It was a metal that was produced in small quantities in Class 3-dimensional rifts and in large quantities in Class 4-dimensional rifts. However, the diamond radium uranium steel was extremely strong and had a wide range of uses, so it was expensive. Even as a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Hu Quan had to pay a considerable fee to take the radium uranium steel from the Spirit Craftsman Guild. However, as a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Hu Quan was already qualified to take the Spirit Craftsman Guild's metals and spiritual materials at will. Lin Yuan, the Radium Uranium Steel Spirit Craftsman Guild, has a large inventory. However, the radium uranium steel can't be purchased with radiance dollars in the Spirit Craftsman Guild. It needs to be exchanged with precious materials that can replace currency. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's face lit up. It was great that Hu Quan could solve the problem of the radium uranium steel. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would have to go to the Purchase with No Loss Stores fan club to collect the radium uranium steel through the connections he had accumulated previously. During this period, Lin Yuan's Purchase with No Loss store had stockpiled a large amount of aurora pollen through blind trading in 3 batches every day. Every day, 30 newcomers would join the Star Web Stores fan club. The second batch was even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 740. Now the store's fan club would auction a heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl every night under Lisan's organization. Since the elemental pearls were auctioned by bidding, it was uncertain what kind of spiritual materials could be obtained. The spiritual ingredients obtained through the auction of the elemental pearls had been categorized by Lisan into several diamond face storage boxes and placed in the storage room on the 3rd floor of the manor. In fact, if Lin Yuan wanted to search for spiritual ingredients, he could no longer only go through the Purchase with No Loss Stores fan club. After understanding the Sun family's Do Immortal Gardens information, he knew that the Sun family's Do Immortal Gardens high-class creation master resources were completely dependent on him. This gave Lin Yuan the confidence to walk Sun Ningxiang's path when collecting spiritual ingredients. Sun Ningxiang's method would undoubtedly make it much easier for him to collect some rare resources. As for the remuneration, he could use all his effort to repay it. Lin Yuan, who had become a B-rank spirit chi professional, was so fast that even he was afraid of himself. He had previously given Hu Quan and Master Hong Shen 2 boxes of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls each for them to use for daily consumption. At that moment, Lin Yuan took out 2 brocade boxes of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls and handed them to Hu Quan. "Uncle Hu still has a lot of elemental pearls here. It should be enough for you to exchange for radium uranium steel in the Spirit Craftsman Association." To him, the most basic transaction currency was the elemental pearls that were constantly produced in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. After Hu Quan accepted the elemental pearls, he nervously stored them in the diamond face storage box. When Lin Yuan had given Hu Quan the elemental pearls, he had only felt that he had done something very ordinary. However, every time he collected the elemental pearls from Lin Yuan, he would become very vigilant and look at the ring-shaped diamond face storage box on his hand. He was afraid that the ring-shaped diamond face storage box would fall from his hand and be lost. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and asked Hu Quan, "Uncle Hu, according to your investigation, which part of the underground space is the most solid?" Hu Quan said immediately, "The terrain behind the manor is the sturdiest in the direction of the Green Hill. Although the Green Hill is only 400 to 500 meters above the ground, the veins of the mountains and rivers under the ground extend for nearly 1,000 meters. Upon hearing Hu Quan's words, Lin Yuan immediately decided on the location of the space tunnel in the underground space. "Uncle Hu, dig 300 meters under the Green Hill and set up a large number of spatial magnets and floating silver threads in the space 300 meters below the Green Hill. Be sure to be able to completely conceal the spatial fluctuations. This kind of ultra-long-distance cross-federation space tunnel would inevitably be accompanied by powerful spatial fluctuations during the teleportation. If there was no strict spatial isolation, Even if the spatial tunnel was set up 300 meters underground, it was very likely to be detected by spatial phase. After that, Lin Yuan did not have any other requirements for the underground space. When he recalled Hu Quan and Master Hong Shen's state when he had just entered the room, he said to them, "Don't worry. Uncle Hu, my main goal in the underground space is to build an underground base that belongs to Sky City. Of Master of Essence, so and of Master of. Hu Quan nodded and understood what Lin Yuan meant. At the same time, when Hu Quan saw Master Hong Shen's sloppy appearance, he could not help but feel somewhat embarrassed. His old habit of being a spirit craftsman had acted up and he couldn't control his temper. Hu Quan said to Lin Yuan, "I've contacted quite a number of Class 3 spirit craftsmen, including some Class 2 spirit craftsmen who are about to advance to Class 3 spirit craftsmen. There are about 300 of them in total. I plan to incorporate them into the Heavenly Craft Pavilion. After this, the Heavenly Craft Pavilion will no longer recruit spirit craftsmen. I found a few good seedlings among the 200 spirit craftsmen previously. After nurturing them for a period of time, they have a high chance of becoming Class 4 spirit craftsmen. After becoming a Class 4 spirit craftsman, these people will be able to hold their own. With the addition of this new batch of spirit craftsmen, the fortifications of the hidden Worm Lake and the underground space can be carried out together." After speaking to Lin Yuan, Hu Quan patted Master Hong Shen's shoulder and said, "Yes, Master Hong Shen. Let's go, old brother. Your younger brother will treat you to a meal. I will then listen to your requests and suggestions for the underground Fey breeding base." Master Hong Shen did not care about Hu Quan's bad temper at all. Because if Grandmaster Hong Shen was disturbed while concocting the mystical liquid, his temper would probably be 10 times worse than Hu Quan's. Although Master Hong Shen was a little confused, seeing that Hu Quan wanted to treat him to a meal, Master Hong Shen immediately stood up and chuckled. "Since you're going to eat, then accompany this old man back home first. I have quite a lot of wine that I brewed using spirit materials. Let's drink some." Lin Yuan was about to return to his room when he saw Hu Quan and Master Hong Shen walking down the stairs neatly dressed. As soon as Lin Yuan saw Lu Jia, he recalled the Moon Empress Nix assembly. Lin Yuan asked Lu Jia, "Brother Lu, if you don't need to go to Yiyang Palace in 10 days, let's go to the Nix assembly together." When Lin Yuan left the Radiant Moon Palace, the Moon Empress had asked him to attend the Night Dawn Palace's Nix Assembly's banquet 10 days later at 6 p.m. Originally, the Moon Empress had planned to bring Lin Yuan along. However, she needed to go to Night Dawn Palace one day in advance to discuss the 100-year plan of the revival of the Slumbering One with Night-Leaning Moon Chef Supreme, Bamboo Monarch, and other top experts in the Radiance Federation. She had to make the corresponding preparations in advance. Therefore, even if the Moon Empress brought Lin Yuan there in advance, she could not bring him to attend the meeting. Instead of letting Lin Yuan stay in Night Dawn Palace for a day, it was better for him to come over when the Nix assembly began. After the Moon Empress had accepted Lin Yuan as a disciple, she had never brought him to a public event. Now that Night-Leaning Moon had accepted a disciple, she was going to hold a Nix assembly to announce it to the world. This made the Moon Empress feel that she should also bring Lin Yuan to show off. However, the Moon Empress understood Lin Yuan's low-profile character. Otherwise, he would not have split his identity as a combat-class spirit chi professional and a creation master on Star Web. Furthermore, the identity of a creation master had been forcefully split into two with a mask. Therefore, during the Nix assembly, the Moon Empress had specially asked Lin Yuan if he wanted to reveal his identity. At that time, Lin Yuan could see that his master really wanted him to reveal his identity, and he did not think of rejecting this. Chapter 3, End of this chapter. Chapter 741. The Radiance Federation's top factions would send their senior experts along with their core disciples to attend the Great Night Convention. Only the top factions and a few veteran factions with rich foundations would be able to attend the convention. Sun Ningxiang, the Miao family's direct descendants, and even the Sea of Bliss Qi Haiyang were likely to attend this Great Night meeting. Lin Yuan felt that this Great Night meeting was a good opportunity for him. He now had 3 identities. His original identity was Lin Yuan, and he was the faction Sky City's controller. Lin Yuan's original identity had always been an ordinary Class 2 creation master. After the Great Night meeting, Lin Yuan's identity as an ordinary Class 2 creation master would have the shining label of the Moon Empress disciple. Originally, Lin Yuan had always been in contact with the major factions as Sky City's controller. This time Lin Yuan felt that he could completely change his identity and not use the identity of Sky City's controller. Instead, he would use the identity of the Moon Empress disciple to get in touch with the top faction's younger generation. In Lin Yuan's opinion, sometimes he did not need 3 identities. 2 identities could increase the sense of mystery, could also deceive people. Wuxia was stunned when he heard Lin Yuan's words. After thinking for a long time and confirming that he really had not heard of the Great Night meeting, he asked Lin Yuan, "I know what kind of place the Yaong Palace is, but what is the Great Night meeting?" Upon seeing Wuxia's dumbfounded expression, Lin Yuan was also stunned. Then Lin Yuan explained to Wuxia what the Great Night meeting was about. Wuxia took out his cell phone and called his master Night Leaning Moon. As a result, he heard Night Leaning Moon say lightly, "There is such a thing." "That's true. I was going to tell you the night before." After hanging up the phone, Wuxia said to Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, I don't have to go there first." "Lin Yuan, I don't have to go there first. Let's go together then." After saying that, Wuxia touched the back of his head and said with a silly smile, "Master has been very busy recently. Master has been very busy dispatching the envoys from various places. I heard that 2 Pinnacle Class 4 swamp dimensional rifts have opened up in the vicinity of the Western Great Lake. These 2 Pinnacle Class 4 swamp dimensional rifts are very close to each other and have a faint possibility of mutually influencing each other to evolve into Class 5. The Great Western Swamp is inaccessible and extremely far from the 32 major cities. Thus, Master intends to use this opportunity to let the 2 Pinnacle dimensional rifts influence each other and upgrade them to Class 5. Master has already deployed the 30 envoys and the Right Master of the Left and Right Masters of the Land of Soul Suppression to the Great Western Marsh." Upon hearing Wuxia's words, Lin Yuan immediately understood that the chief guard was eyeing the sacred source lifeforms in the Class 5 dimensional rift. The Nyx assembly would be held in the imperial capital's Yaong Palace. Most likely, the top forces and top veteran forces had already received the notice and were preparing to head there. In fact, many top forces had already brought their core disciples to the royal capital. He was already a slow learner, but he didn't expect Wuxia to know about it even later than he did. Wuxia asked when he saw that Lin Yuan was about to go upstairs. "Lin Yuan, I'm going to meet a few king-class experts. These king-class experts have applied to become white-clothed servants, and they have all reached the standards you specified. Do you want to go with me?" Lin Yuan looked at the time. Using Morbius True Data, the Starlight Wisdom Cloud fully bloomed at around 10 p.m. It was only 2 in the afternoon, so Lin Yuan and Wuxia went to interview this batch of king-class experts. Although these king-class experts' main phase were not outstanding, they had comprehended as many as 3 willpower runes. These king-class experts were all over the age of middle-aged. Even so, these king-class experts could be considered dragons and phoenixes among men in terms of perception of willpower runes. However, they did not have enough resources to nurture phase. These people might be geniuses, but their arrogance had long been erased by reality, and their edges had become abnormally flat. Finally, under the oath, these 4 king-class experts became Sky City's white-clothed servants. Lin Yuan also had to fulfill his promise to prepare bronze/epic phase for these 4 king-class experts who had become white-clothed servants. This was simply a piece of cake for Lin Yuan. All 4 of them added up would only take half an hour. Afterward, Wuxia, as the white-robed majordomo, let the 4 white-clothed servants continue to live and accumulate resources as usual. 3 days later, Lin Yuan would mail the enhanced phase to these 4 king-class experts through Ostrich Logistics. Lin Yuan's purpose in establishing the white-clothed servants plan was to provide high-quality bronze phase in exchange for the king-class experts' allegiance. He would then let the king-class experts collect resources and nurture phase themselves. Zhou Luo had been recognized by Lin Yuan after the trip to Indigo Azure City, which was also considered an accident of Lin Yuan's white-clothed servants plan. At present, the 4 newly accepted white-clothed servants of Sky City still needed some time to grow. Slowly, Sky City's white-clothed servants would be raised in this way. When Sky City didn't need these white-clothed followers, these white-clothed followers were the scattered clouds outside Sky City. When Sky City needed these white-clothed servants, Sky City's command would be the wind. It would let the scattered clouds gather together and burst out with amazing power. After returning to the mansion, Lin Yuan entered his room and began to continue to enhance the phase that Sun Ningxiang and the Blissful Sea clan had mailed to him. In 3 hours, Lin Yuan had completed the workload that could not be completed even if he worked for a day. Then Lin Yuan observed the 6 soldier rations radishes in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. After observing for a while, Lin Yuan found that although the soldier rations radishes were constantly growing vines, the old stump part of the soldier rations radishes did not grow at all. The soldier rations radishes old stump division required pure spirit qi. Based on the state when Lin Yuan took the branches and leaves out of the Spirit Lock spatial zone and the state of the branches and leaves in the Spirit Lock spatial zone's pure spirit qi, he could draw a conclusion. However, the pure spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone could only maintain the activity of the soldier rations radishes old stump and not promote them to grow. At that moment, Lin Yuan thought of the life form sacrificial fire's promotion of the soldier rations radishes rooting effect. Lin Yuan carried the twin red pagoda over and placed it beside the 6 soldier rations radishes. Then he used the 6 jade basins of the soldier rations radishes to surround the twin red pagoda. The thumb-sized emerald green flame on the twin red pagoda's main flower's head danced as usual. Lin Yuan found that the speed at which the soldier rations radishes grew vines was several times faster than before. Through the changes in the spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan could feel that these 6 soldier rations radishes were rapidly growing and also absorbing the pure spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan could not see the changes in the old stump with his own eyes. However, based on the speed at which the vines were growing, the soldier rations radishes old stump must also be growing faster. The 4th chapter is a reward for the Desert Turn 3 Lives Shore. Good night everyone. Sweet dreams. End of this chapter. Chapter 742. Lin Yuan decided to place the twin red pagoda's main flower in the middle of the 6 pots of soldier grain radish to accelerate its growth. Seeing that it was 10 o'clock, Lin Yuan summoned the Starlight Jitan from the Spirit Lock spatial zone. After Lin Yuan took out the Starlight Jitan in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he found that the dry, weed-like yellow leaves at the bottom were slowly absorbing the spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone and turning into a tender yellow color. The Starlight Jitan's originally half-opened large flower bud had also completely bloomed at that moment. The yellow spots wandered on the large flower bud and finally gathered toward the Starlight Jitan's stamen. Under Lin Yuan's gaze, the Starlight Jitan's huge white flower quickly withered. It was really like a short-lived flower. When the white flower withered, amber pollen crystals also formed above the stamen. Lin Yuan was a little puzzled. According to common sense, after the Starlight Jitan bloomed a flower, the plant would wither because all the nutrients were absorbed by the flower. However, the starlight pollen that the Starlight Jitan used for rolling had condensed, but the plant had not died. Under the nourishment of the spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, the Starlight Jitan's tender yellow plant was turning emerald green. At that moment, Lin Yuan thought of what his master, the Moon Empress, had said. In order to induce the Starlight Jitan to bloom, it required a bottle of Class 5 spirit liquid with a high concentration of spirit qi or 3 bottles of Class 4 spirit liquid with a high concentration of spirit qi every day for a month. This showed the preciousness of the starlight pollen that the Starlight Jitan had condensed. However, it also showed the effect of a high concentration of spirit qi on the Starlight Jitan. The purity and concentration of spirit qi in Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock spatial zone could not even be compared to the concentration of spirit qi in the spirit liquids concocted by Class 5 creation masters. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check on the Starlight Jitan that had been resurrected in the high concentration of spirit qi. Lin Yuan was surprised to find that the Starlight Jitan had mutated under the nourishment of the pure spirit qi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. It had mutated into a fae called the Astrologer Jitan. Its pollen had completely lost the effect of the Starlight Jitan, allowing spirit qi professionals to roll their grades. However, under True Data, the pollen produced by the Astrologer Jitan could absorb the energy between the stars and turn it into a kind of good luck. Using good luck to break through a person's innate bad luck. This kind of innate bad luck included cursing one's children, husband, relatives, etc. Luck was an illusory thing, not to mention that a person was born with bad luck. Normally, as a young man of the new era, Lin Yuan would not believe such bad luck as cursing one's children, husband, and relatives. However, Lin Yuan had encountered Wang Fuxiang. He had no choice but to believe that someone was born with this curse-like misfortune. Actually, Lin Yuan did not believe Wang Fuxiang when she said that she had cursed so many husbands, boyfriends, and girlfriends. In Lin Yuan's opinion, even if what Wang Fuxiang said was true, it might not be due to bad luck. Who knew if Wang Fuxiang had any tricks up her sleeves? Lin Yuan did not know much about Wang Fuxiang. However, when everyone was eating together not long ago, Listen had mentioned the elegant pavilion when talking about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's recent management of luxury goods resources. The elegant pavilion's function was to rate luxury resources, which was included in the big function of luxury. A function like rating luxury resources could easily generate a large amount of cash flow. The elegant pavilion could integrate the luxury goods resources of various major factions and rate them. Lin Yuan did not believe that the elegant pavilion did not have a powerful force supporting it. During the meal, Lin Yuan saw that Duan He seemed to know Wang Fuxiang very well, so he specifically asked Duan He about Wang Fuxiang's situation. When Duan He had been a spirit guard in the spirit guards, he had participated in the investigation of Wang Fuxiang. It could be said that he had a very clear understanding of Wang Fuxiang's situation. If someone else had asked Duan He about Wang Fuxiang's situation, he would not have said anything. However, Duan He was now a member of Sky City, and he knew that Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, so he did not hide anything from Lin Yuan. From the information Duan He provided, it could be confirmed that those who had been cursed to death by Wang Fuxiang had all been infected with bad luck for no reason. Most of these people had known Wang Fuxiang for a long time, and they had only died after they had confirmed their relationship with Wang Fuxiang. Moreover, these people who died had a common characteristic. The stronger they were, the later they died. After a detailed investigation by the spirit guards, they found that Wang Fuxiang valued every relationship very much. Each time a lover died, Wang Fuxiang would be depressed for a long period of time. These circumstances made Lin Yuan believe that there were people in this world who were born with bad luck. The starlight Ji Tan had mutated into the astrologer Ji Tan under the high concentration of spiritual energy. The pollen condensed by the starlight Ji Tan could alleviate or resolve the innate misfortune of people like Wang Fuxiang based on the amount of misfortune they had. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh at the miraculous effect of the astrology Ji Tan's fei on luck. This astrologer Ji Tan was not of much use to Lin Yuan at the moment, so he placed it in a corner of the workbench in the spirit lock spatial zone. Then he plucked the amber pollen that starlight Ji Tan had condensed from the withered flower core. Lin Yuan looked at the amber-colored starlight pollen crystal in his hand and recalled the usage method that his master, the Moon Empress, had told him. Lin Yuan immediately swallowed the pollen into his stomach. Immediately after, Lin Yuan felt his entire body become warm, and there was a trace of bitter taste in his throat. This bitter taste spread to all parts of Lin Yuan's body, making him feel hot and swollen. However, Lin Yuan felt very comfortable with this swollen feeling. The starlight Ji Tan's pollen could allow spirit chi professionals to break through the grade limit and increase the phase grade by another level. At the same time, it could cleanse the impurities in the spirit chi professional's body. However, the impurities in Lin Yuan's body and soul had been cleansed by the silver stamen gold luster cash's nectar. Since there were no impurities in Lin Yuan's body, he did not need to experience the pain of cleansing the impurities. He would also not expel a large amount of impurities from his body. The starlight Ji Tan's pollen cleansed the impurities in his body, and it was like a nourishment and massage for Lin Yuan's cells. It allowed every cell in Lin Yuan's body to reach the most healthy and active state. After a long time, Lin Yuan opened his eyes and realized that his spirit, essence and spirit had been greatly improved. First, it was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 743. As a spirit chi professional, he could sense the limit of his contracted phase. After Lin Yuan became a B-rank spirit chi professional, he could clearly sense that Platinum X was his limit. Previously, Lin Yuan's body had been baptized by the silver stamen gold luster kasha nectar and was far superior to ordinary people. More importantly, it was because the Jasmine Lily was a fae under Morbius' spirit lock spatial zone, and not a fae that Lin Yuan had contracted with his spiritual energy. After consuming the Starlight Jitan's pollen, Lin Yuan could sense that the limit of his contracted phase had reached Diamond X. Lin Yuan immediately summoned the ethereal jellyfish. When he summoned the ethereal jellyfish, it immediately flashed and covered his head. It wanted to lie comfortably on Lin Yuan's head. Lin Yuan seemed to have expected the ethereal jellyfish's action. He took a step forward and tilted his head. The ethereal jellyfish that was flashing toward Lin Yuan landed on his neck. The ethereal jellyfish's bright red tentacles were on Lin Yuan's neck like a huge scarf. Coupled with Lin Yuan's white and blue spirit chi clothes, it looked abnormally festive. Lin Yuan took the ethereal jellyfish off his neck and looked at the silver eye/legend ethereal jellyfish. He reached out and touched the new tentacles under the ethereal jellyfish's body and the tentacles that had grown halfway in the middle of its body. Lin Yuan found that among all his fays, the ethereal jellyfish was the most comfortable to touch. It was like touching a moist jelly. Even Genius soft fur could not be compared to the ethereal jellyfish's smooth and tender skin. Lin Yuan said to the ethereal jellyfish, which was occasionally making gudgy sounds. "Ethereal jellyfish, I'm going to enhance your grade in a while." While speaking, Lin Yuan took out the bottle of spirit fluid that the Moon Empress had given him, which was concocted from the spatial mother shellfish's shell. After he took out the bottle of spirit fluid, there was no special reaction in the spirit lock spatial zone. It did not produce hundreds or thousands of blooming spatial flowers in the air like when he took out the bottle in the Radiant Moon Palace. Lin Yuan thought to himself. It seemed like the spatial stability in the spirit lock spatial zone was much higher than the outside world. The ethereal jellyfish was silly and did not quite understand what Lin Yuan meant. However, when it saw Lin Yuan caressing its tentacle, it obediently raised its tentacle. It then shook its tentacles at Lin Yuan, seemingly urging him to cut its hair. He had trimmed the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles several times. Lin Yuan did not keep these trimmed tentacles. Instead, he set up tentacle nodes in many places in the imperial capital. At that moment, he let the source sand precipitate the day and night spirit silver feathers and cut off the ethereal jellyfish's newly grown tentacles. As he looked at the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles, he felt that he could set up the coordinates of the tentacle nodes in the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's newly established auction house, Huquan's Sky Armament Pavilion, and the Manor's underground space to facilitate his journey. If he wanted to go to the Radiant Moon Palace now, he would only need to teleport a few times and would not need to waste time on the road. Lin Yuan also planned to distribute a portion of the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles to the others in the manor. As long as the others activated the silver ability node stored in the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles, they would be able to teleport in the direction of the ethereal jellyfish from the origin. This was equivalent to Lin Yuan preparing a life-saving trump card for the others in the manor. Even if Listen was surrounded by King-class experts, he could escape to the ethereal jellyfish's location through the node before the King-class experts could kill him. Lin Yuan was 100% satisfied with this spatial teleportation source-type ethereal jellyfish that his master, the Moon Empress, had given him and could be considered a strategic resource. The silver ethereal jellyfish's 3 abilities, tentacle nodes, node teleportation, node trigger, and even its exclusive skill, space tunnel, were extremely useful to Lin Yuan. If the ethereal jellyfish had not detected the evolving water world dimensional rift, Lin Yuan would not have obtained the sacred source life form, the sacred sword embracing queen. It also had the ability to use law crystal fragments and law source crystals to produce law crystals in batches. He would not have the opportunity to go to the Divine Wood Federation to train at will. Next, Lin Yuan was going to use the spirit liquid in the bottle to upgrade the ethereal jellyfish from Silver Eye/Legend to Diamond X/Legend. This would allow the ethereal jellyfish to have a qualitative leap. Source-type life forms were different from phase. Phase could continuously evolve their bloodline and mutate. However, apart from special types of source-type life forms, such as Red Thorn and Duanhe's contracted phaseless bird, most source-type life forms would not change their names during the evolution process. This was the case for the ethereal jellyfish. However, Lin Yuan was very much looking forward to the 3 new abilities that would appear when the ethereal jellyfish reached Diamond. Lin Yuan opened the bottle's stopper and poured the silver spatial spirit liquid on the ethereal jellyfish. When the ethereal jellyfish came into contact with the spatial spirit liquid, its dark red body was like a sponge that absorbed the few drops of spirit liquid that Lin Yuan poured on it. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan tilted the bottle's mouth and poured more spirit liquid on the ethereal jellyfish. The ethereal jellyfish also absorbed all the spatial spirit liquid that Lin Yuan poured into its body without leaving a single drop. After Lin Yuan poured all the spatial spirit liquid in the bottle on the ethereal jellyfish, he saw the ethereal jellyfish's body light up with a resplendent silver light. This silver light enveloped the ethereal jellyfish's original bright red color. Immediately after, the ethereal jellyfish's body rapidly grew under Lin Yuan's naked eyes. With the previous experience of enhancing Blackie, Lin Yuan immediately left the spirit lock spatial zone with the evolving ethereal jellyfish. The ethereal jellyfish seemed to be drunk as it tossed around in the air during the process of its body enlarging. Due to the difference in spatial stability between the outside space and the spirit lock spatial zone, the silver energy on the ethereal jellyfish's body surface caused many fine spatial ripples to appear in the space inside Lin Yuan's room. At that moment, with the ethereal jellyfish's body as the core, the bright red light suddenly broke the silver shackles. The fine spatial ripples suddenly spread out like a layer of barrier that blocked Lin Yuan's vision. Just as the spatial ripples stopped spreading out, the ethereal jellyfish flashed and disappeared on the spot. Then it appeared in its original position as though it had never left. Lin Yuan knew that the ethereal jellyfish was shuttling back and forth between different dimensions. Through the contract, Lin Yuan could feel that the ethereal jellyfish's grade was constantly rising. The second was even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 744. Although the ethereal jellyfish's body was blocked by the spatial ripples, the aura on its body became stronger and stronger. When the ethereal jellyfish's rank and aura stopped increasing, the scarlet radiance around the ethereal jellyfish retracted into its body. The fine spatial fluctuations that had blocked Lin Yuan's line of sight also disappeared in an instant. Lin Yuan looked at the evolved ethereal jellyfish and found that it had changed drastically. The ethereal jellyfish, which was only 30 centimeters long before including its tentacles, had now grown to 1.5 meters long. The umbrella cap on the top of the ethereal jellyfish was much larger than before, and it was no longer translucent red. Instead, it had turned from a translucent captivating red to a crystalline silver red, like the color of blood and mercury completely fusing together. At that moment, the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles were much thicker than before. The 3 tentacles that grew out of the ethereal jellyfish's center were coiled together, and they were as thick as Lin Yuan's wrist. However, the evolved ethereal jellyfish had grown a thick main tentacle with a layer of fine scales on its surface. If the tentacles that the ethereal jellyfish had originally grown were like human hands and feet, the ethereal jellyfish's main tentacle, which was almost as thick as Lin Yuan's thigh, was like a human's torso. When he was looking at the changes in the ethereal jellyfish's appearance, he was stunned. This was because he sensed a timid and clear thought in his mind. This timid and clear thought made Lin Yuan feel both familiar and unfamiliar. Then he realized that the evolved ethereal jellyfish was greeting him. Therefore, he communicated with the ethereal jellyfish in his mind. Lin Yuan realized that although the ethereal jellyfish didn't have any vocal organs and couldn't communicate with him directly, it could still communicate with him. However, there were no longer any obstacles in the communication between their minds. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt the ethereal jellyfish's thought of presenting a treasure. Master, look at this core tentacle in the middle. It's much more powerful than the other 3 tentacles. Lin Yuan used his hand to touch the ethereal jellyfish's canopy and found that it felt even better than before after its evolution. It became softer and more elastic than before. Lin Yuan could not help but have a thought. If I can hug the ethereal jellyfish when I sleep at night, it should be very comfortable. The ethereal jellyfish sensed Lin Yuan's thoughts and immediately expressed eagerly that Lin Yuan could hug it tonight. When he sensed the ethereal jellyfish's thoughts, he coughed violently. Then he recalled that since the ethereal jellyfish did not have intelligence, he had yet to give it a name. Now that the ethereal jellyfish had intelligence, he felt that it was time to give it a name. He was very confident in coming up with names. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan said to the ethereal jellyfish, "Ethereal jellyfish, can I call you Kong Kong from now on?" When the ethereal jellyfish heard Lin Yuan's name, it immediately shook its tentacles in delight. After passing through several dimensions, he finally returned to his original spot. Lin Yuan looked at the ethereal jellyfish that had gained sentience and smiled. He then used true data to check its attributes. Fey name: ethereal jellyfish, spirit species. Mustelades/floating jellyfish, Fey grade. Diamond 10 out of 10. Fey type: spatial, Fey quality. Legend abilities: frowny face tentacle node. By breaking off a tentacle, the broken tentacle will be treated as a spatial node. Node teleportation. By sensing the spatial node, it will teleport to a designated spatial node. Node trigger. Trigger the spatial node marked by the tentacle node and teleport the target of the triggered node to other tentacle nodes or the main body. After teleportation, the tentacle node will be ineffective. Wandering harvesting. The ethereal jellyfish roams between various dimensions and captures the spatial energy in each dimension to condense a spatial crystal in its body. Core tentacle. A main tentacle grows in the ethereal jellyfish's body and condenses a large amount of spatial energy in the main tentacle. When the main tentacle matures, it will fall off on its own. After the main tentacle falls off, it can establish a spatial tunnel at any distance with the ethereal jellyfish as the origin. Spatial transfer. Can delineate the space within a certain range that is purely filled with elemental energy. When the ethereal jellyfish flashes to another dimension, it will bring this space filled with elemental energy to another dimension. Exclusive skill: frowny face spatial tunnel. By breaking off a large number of tentacles or using spatial spiritual materials, it will fuse the tentacles into space to form a special long-distance spatial tunnel. When there are 3 long-distance spatial tunnels, each time one is destroyed, a new one can only be established. Lin Yuan was not surprised by the ethereal jellyfish's current grade. He had long known that the ethereal jellyfish would evolve to Diamond X/Legend with the spirit fluid that his master, the Moon Empress, had concocted. However, when he saw the ethereal jellyfish's 3 new abilities under true data, he raised his brows slightly. After a brief shock, Lin Yuan's mind immediately became active. The gold ability, Wandering Harvesting, allowed the ethereal jellyfish to absorb the spatial energy in each dimension to condense a spatial crystal in its body when it roamed between dimensions. Lin Yuan was a little conflicted about the Wandering Harvesting ability. In his opinion, the ethereal jellyfish's gold ability, Wandering Harvesting, did not have any combat significance and could only be considered a production ability. Every time the ethereal jellyfish's spatial tunnel was activated, it consumed a lot of spatial energy. Now the spatial crystals condensed by the gold ability, Wandering Harvesting, could supply the spatial tunnel's consumption very well. For others, obtaining a production-type ability like Wandering Harvesting, especially one that could condense expensive spatial spiritual materials like spatial crystals, would probably make them crazy with joy. If he did not use the spatial crystals condensed by the ethereal jellyfish to pay for the teleportation consumption of the spatial tunnel, he could just sell the spatial crystals to make a huge profit. But for the current Lin Yuan, resources were the last thing he lacked. Although spatial spiritual materials were rarer than spiritual materials, as long as Lin Yuan was willing to put in the effort to find them, he would always be able to find them through the Star Web Store's fan club and the Do Immortal Gardens relationship network. However, the gold ability Wandering Harvesting was not completely useless. At the very least, with Wandering Harvesting, Lin Yuan did not have to worry too much about the consumption of spatial spiritual materials when using the spatial tunnel. It also saved Lin Yuan a lot of trouble, and he did not have to put in the effort to find spatial spiritual materials. Third, seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 745. However, he did not know how long it would take for the ethereal jellyfish to condense a spatial crystal in its body. Now that he could communicate with the ethereal jellyfish, he didn't need to conduct experiments like before. He asked the ethereal jellyfish, "Kong Kong, how long does it take for you to condense a space crystal using wandering fishing?" Upon hearing his words, The ethereal jellyfish immediately communicated with him through the contract. If Kong Kong were to condense a spatial crystal, it would probably take about 15 hours. While communicating, the ethereal jellyfish's body suddenly lit up with a glaring silver-red luster. The ethereal jellyfish waved its tentacles and sensed carefully. Empty has a tentacle that's very, very far away. That place is connected to the space tunnel for teleportation, and it requires 2 space crystals per use. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately knew that Empty had sensed the tentacle that Mystic Moon had placed in the Divine Wood Federation. According to the judgment of the ethereal jellyfish, it would consume 4 space crystals for a round trip to the Divine Wood Federation. It would take the ethereal jellyfish 60 hours to condense the spatial crystal in its body. If the spatial tunnel's ability to recover spatial energy was taken into account, he estimated that if he did not prepare any extra spatial spiritual materials for a round trip, he would not be able to make it back and forth. He would probably have to stay in the Divine Wood Federation for at least 2 days. After understanding the strength of the gold ability free fishing, he decided not to put the ethereal jellyfish back into the spirit lock spatial zone or spiritual spatial zone in the future. Instead, he allowed the ethereal jellyfish to live in the manner and continuously condense spatial crystals. Then he continued to examine the ethereal jellyfish's platinum ability core tentacle. After seeing the description of the platinum core tentacle under true data, Lin Yuan understood the function of the ethereal jellyfish's main tentacle, which was as thick as his thigh. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the core tentacle could be considered a temporary spatial tunnel without any distance restrictions. When this temporary space tunnel was opened, it would constantly consume the space energy contained in the core tentacle. When the spatial energy contained in the core tentacle was exhausted, the temporary spatial passage would disappear. The space tunnel created by the core tentacles was only temporary, unlike the one created by the ethereal jellyfish with its 3 tentacles. However, if the ethereal jellyfish condensed spatial crystals were thrown into the tunnel created by the core tentacle, the duration of the temporary opening of the tunnel could be extended. The ethereal jellyfish's exclusive skill, Space Tunnel, had a distance limit. The Divine Wood Federation, which was the closest to the Radiance Federation, could almost be considered the ethereal jellyfish's limit. However, the core tentacle didn't have to worry about distance when opening a tunnel. The only thing that needed to be considered was how long the spatial energy contained in the core tentacle could support the tunnel. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the core tentacle was a rather special ability. Lin Yuan felt that the ethereal jellyfish's core tentacle was a useless ability that couldn't be used at all. After understanding when used sacred source lifeforms function, the core tentacle could definitely be considered a strategic class ability. Through the Celestial Parliament's function, Lin Yuan could consume the laws to transfer the ethereal jellyfish's core tentacle to Bei Su or Yin Lin. At that time, Lin Yuan could directly use the core tentacle to open a spatial passage from the ethereal jellyfish to the new world. However, when communicating with the spatial jellyfish, Lin Yuan knew that the core tentacle would take a long time to mature. It was impossible to open such a long-distance spatial passage in a short time. However, each mature ethereal jellyfish core tentacle was equivalent to a key to open the door to a new world for Lin Yuan. Compared to a phase ability, strategic significance was often more important. As for the ethereal jellyfish's diamond ability, Space Shift, Lin Yuan felt that it could be considered an absolute defense against elemental attacks. Space Shift could demarcate a space purely filled with elemental energy and transfer it to another dimension. When Lin Yuan encountered elemental energy attacks in the future, he could rely on Space Shift to move the elemental energy attacks away. With the ethereal jellyfish's Space Shift, Lin Yuan's already strong defense system became more complete. The source sand could defend against physical and elemental damage. However, compared to elemental defense, the source sand was more inclined to physical defense. Now Lin Yuan's relatively weak elemental defense was made up for by the ethereal jellyfish's Space Shift. Spiritual defense had a smart ability, Spiritual Expansion. This made Lin Yuan feel that he had become an unkillable cockroach. Coupled with the spirit-drawing dragonfish's exclusive skill, Spirit Purity Burst, the massive amount of spirit chi in the spirit chi imprint, and the huge vitality in the vitality imprint, Lin Yuan felt that people might believe him if he said he was a fae. After checking the ethereal jellyfish's true data, Lin Yuan looked at the Diamond X/Legend ethereal jellyfish and could not help but look forward to it. He did not know when the ethereal jellyfish would be able to comprehend the willpower rune from heaven and earth and become a fantasy breed fae. After comprehending the willpower rune, the ethereal jellyfish would be qualified to reach suzerain and become a myth breed fae after undergoing the world cleansing. At that moment, the ethereal jellyfish was the highest grade fae in Lin Yuan's possession. Lin Yuan opened the window and let the ethereal jellyfish wander around the mansion to condense spatial crystals. After busying himself with the ethereal jellyfish, Lin Yuan returned to the spirit lock spatial zone. The cells in Lin Yuan's body were full of activity after he reached the rolled grade, and they allowed him to be in a state of vigorous energy. In such a state, Lin Yuan did not need to rest at all. He rolled up his sleeves and started to enhance phase. He did not know how long he had been busy for. When Lin Yuan looked at the time, he realized that he had unknowingly worked hard in the spirit lock spatial zone for over 30 hours. He had already worked hard on the pile of plant phase that Sun Ningxiang had given him for him to enhance, as well as the pregnant female angelfish of bliss that the blissful sea clan needed for him to enhance. Lin Yuan had also enhanced a pregnant female angelfish of bliss to bronze/legend without using spirit chi crystals. Then he injected a large amount of spirit chi into the eggs that the female bronze/legend angelfish of bliss was carrying. The first time was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 746. The fish eggs had absorbed the pure spirit chi and become stronger. This made the belly of the bronze/legend angelfish of bliss look much bigger than usual. If the blissful sea tribe got their hands on such a big belly, they would probably treat this pregnant bronze/legend angelfish of blissful like a treasure. However, without the help of Lin Yuan's pure spirit chi, this female fish would not be able to give birth to the group of nezhas in its belly. Lin Yuan had worked hard for half a month's worth of work in a day. Looking at the pile of enhanced phase in front of him, Lin Yuan felt extremely relaxed. However, Lin Yuan did not intend to mail these enhanced phase over immediately. He would deliver them bit by bit according to the original agreed time. If he delivered so many phase in a short time, it would be a little too shocking. Just as Lin Yuan was about to leave the spirit lock spatial zone, he heard a soft sound. The outermost feathers on the gray crane's eggshell had lost their color and completely peeled off. The layer of pure white feathers with golden patterns inside the eggshell was exposed. Lin Yuan walked over to check and confirmed that Gray should be able to hatch within this month. Lin Yuan cut his palm and let the fresh blood cover the eggshell wrapped by Gray's feathers. He deepened the bloodline connection with Gray. After feeding the wind-speed rapid antelope a wind elemental pearl, Lin Yuan left the spirit lock spatial zone. After leaving the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan realized that Zhang Xiaobai and Gao Feng had called him during the 30 hours he had been working hard. Lin Yuan called Zhang Xiaobai back first. Zhang Xiaobai's somewhat off-key voice came from the other end of the phone. Lin Yuan, let me tell you. I found a restaurant called Muxiang Residence. It might be a buffet restaurant, but it has guns, eggs, cannons, and big kidneys. Lin Yuan's brows could not help but twitch when he heard Zhang Xiaobai's words. When Lin Yuan and Zhang Xiaobai had gone out for a meal, he had seen Zhang Xiaobai eat roasted kidneys in a few bites, which made Lin Yuan's appetite rise. However, after Lin Yuan took a bite of the kidneys, the fishy smell in the roasted kidneys almost made him spiral into the sky. Lin Yuan's taste was not considered light, and he had eaten red braised meat often. However, he really couldn't stand the fishy smell of the kidneys. Just as Lin Yuan was about to reply, he heard Zhang Xiaobai cry out in pain. Xin Ying's voice came from beside Zhang Xiaobai. Why are you talking to Lin Yuan about the kidneys again? Don't you know that you made Lin Yuan vomit last time? Other than you, how many normal people would be willing to eat kidneys? When Zhang Xiaobai heard what Xin Ying said, he immediately felt wronged and muttered. Didn't I eat the kidneys for you? Immediately after, Lin Yuan heard Zhang Xiaobai's cries of pain coming from the other end of the phone. Clearly, Zhang Xiaobai was being attacked by Xin Ying at this time. After a long while, Lin Yuan heard Zhang Xiaobai groan in pain. Lin Yuan, we've settled the contract issue with the Extreme Guild Club. The four of us are free now. We'll go to the manor to find you later. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan revealed a bright smile on his face. During this time Lin Yuan had been in contact with Zhang Xiaobai and the others. Zhang Xiaobai, Xen Ying Tan Ran, and Lu Pinru had also come to the manor twice. Now Zhang Xiaobai, Xen Ying, Lu Pinru and Tan Ran were completely free and could join the Dome Guild Club. The Dome Guild Club's base was in the area behind the Return from Faraway Manor. The Dome Guild Club's building had been built by Hu Quan, but the interior had yet to be decorated. After Zhang Xiaobai and the others arrived and did some decorations, they could live in the Dome Guild Club's base. "Hey, you guys come over. I'll pick you up at the door in a while." Just as he was about to hang up, Lin Yuan heard Zhang Xiaobai say rather mysteriously, "When we arrive, the four of us will show you something good." After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan could not help but be a little confused. He did not know what good thing Zhang Xiaobai was talking about. However, he did not dwell on it. Zhang Xiaobai and the others would arrive in a while. Lin Yuan would naturally know what good thing it was when they met. Then Lin Yuan dialed Gao Feng's number. After dialing for a long time, just when Lin Yuan thought he was going to hang up, Gao Feng picked up. Lin Yuan realized that Gao Feng's tone and manner of speaking were the same as when Gao Feng was calling him and saying goodbye to him when his mother was checking on him. Lin Yuan asked softly, "Your family members are beside you?" Upon hearing that, Gao Feng let out a soft and whispered to Lin Yuan, "Give me 5 minutes." Then he hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, Gao Feng called Lin Yuan. As soon as Lin Yuan picked up the phone, he heard Gao Feng's sigh from the other end. "Brother, I came to the royal capital. I originally wanted to look for you to play. But my parents have been taking me to all kinds of gatherings these few days and have gotten to know a bunch of useless people. They don't let me move around freely at all." Upon hearing Gao Feng's tone, Lin Yuan knew that Gao Feng had probably been stifled for the past few days. Lin Yuan asked Gao Feng, "Are you here to participate in the Nix assembly at this time?" Upon hearing that, Gao Feng's eyes lit up. Then, Gao Feng recalled the massive amount of creation master resources that Lin Yuan had and replied, "That's right. Brother, are you participating in the Nix assembly too?" Lin Yuan didn't hide anything. "That's right. Since your family has been taking you to all kinds of gatherings and have no time, then we can meet at the Nix assembly 10 days later." It just so happens that the batch of coral jades with insect patterns has been enhanced. Upon hearing that, Gao Feng had a delighted expression. However, he immediately thought of something and his expression collapsed again. "Brother, the Nix assembly has 3 arenas, the academic arena, the martial arena and the civil and martial arena, right? I'm not a creation master, so my father asked me to participate in the martial arena. Wouldn't I, a support-type spirit chi professional, be a live target on the martial arena? I really don't know what my father is thinking. It's fine if he asked me to participate in the Radiance 100 sequences test, but he actually forced me to participate in the martial arena." When Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's words, he felt that he didn't quite understand. He didn't hear from his master, the Moon Empress, that there were academic arena, martial arena and civil and martial arena in the Nix assembly. Therefore, he maintained the attitude of asking if he didn't understand. Lin Yuan asked Gao Feng, "Gao Feng, what are the academic arena, martial arena and civil and martial arena?" The second one was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 747. Gao Feng was taken aback by Lin Yuan's question. He was surprised that Lin Yuan did not know about the Nix assembly's layout. One must know that the top forces and top veteran forces had already received news of the Nix assembly half a month ago. Among them, the civil, martial and martial arenas had caused them to go crazy. There were plenty of big shots in the Nix assembly. Even if the chief guard accepted a disciple, there were always other big shots who did not. Some big shots could still accept disciples even if they already had one. The academic arena, martial arena, and dual arena were the 3 arenas that allowed the core members of the peak forces to display their talents. However, Lin Yuan did not know about such places. Therefore, Gao Feng explained in detail to Lin Yuan. The civil arena is a place for the aristocratic family's descendants to compete with creation masters, while the martial arena tests the strength of spirit chi professionals. However, there are many outstanding descendants of the aristocratic families who are both outstanding spirit chi professionals and creation masters. The civil and martial arenas are a place for such talents to display their strength. I heard that the civil, martial and martial arenas will be held this time. As long as one successfully defends the arena and stands until the end of the Nyx assembly, one will be able to obtain an extremely precious treasure. There are even rumors that the reward for the champion of the civil and martial arenas is a sacred source life form. At this point, the other end of the line was on the verge of tears. Sacred source life forms were not something that could be easily obtained even by top factions. The Gao family had sacred source life forms, but only one was in the hands of Gao Feng's grandfather. Gao Feng's grandfather was also a powerful deterrent for the Gao family as a top faction. Lin Yuan's pupils shrank when he heard Gao Feng mention sacred source life forms. Although Lin Yuan, Wen Yu and Lu Jia already had sacred source life forms, Chu Xi was still too young. Chu Xi was just too young. Once she turned 18, she would be able to contract the sacred source life form that Song Yu had prepared. However, after understanding the power of sacred source life forms, Lin Yuan realized that each sacred source life form was a unique treasure. Lin Yuan now had a sacred source life form that had not been contracted by anyone. He had prepared it for the mother of Bloodbath. However, Endless Summer now had the possibility of becoming a creation breed and becoming Endless Divine Dream Summer. If possible, he felt that he should prepare a sacred source life form for Endless Summer. Endless Summer was truly one of Lin Yuan's people, and sacred source life forms had many functions. If Endless Summer's contracted sacred source life form had an offensive ability, it could greatly increase Endless Summer's strength. This would increase the deterrence of Sky City's top-tier combatants. Even if Endless Summer's sacred source life form was a functional existence like Wen Yu, it could still contribute a special power to Sky City. Lin Yuan, who had just found out about the Nyx Assembly's 3 arenas, already had the idea of becoming the champion of both the civil and martial arenas. If he could become the champion of both the civil and martial arena, he might be able to obtain a sacred source life form. Gao Feng's claim of a sacred source life form as a reward for both the civil and martial arena was just a rumor. However, for such a rumor to spread among the top powers, there was a high chance that it was true. Even if the rumors were wrong, the rewards for both civil and martial challenges would definitely be extraordinary. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's soft sigh. Sigh. Whatever the reward is, it has nothing to do with me. I just hope that I don't lose too badly on the martial arena. Gao Feng's tone over the phone was a little melancholy. However, Gao Feng had never felt that there was anything wrong with his contracted fei. On the contrary, after the Yellow Spring Lily reached Gold X/Fantasy 2, Gao Feng felt that his combat system was already very powerful. In fact, when the Yellow Spring Lily evolved into a Platinum/Fantasy breed fei, Gao Feng could even fight for the qualification to join the A-grade Guild Club's main team. During this period, Gao Feng had been watching the S tournament's duels every day, and his mind had also become active. He planned to contact those A-grade guild clubs after the Radiance 100 sequence test. He wanted to see if the A-grade guild club's main team was lacking in positions. As the only heir of the Gao family, Gao Feng had a pride that far exceeded the average young masters of the top factions. Gao Feng wasn't willing to be an ordinary member of the reserve team of an A-ranked club. Lin Yuan did not know how to comfort Gao Feng, as he had already told Lin Yuan about his phase equipment and grade. Even though Gao Feng's phase grade was already very high, it could not even reach the Star Web's celestial stairway due to its lack of offensive power. Lin Yuan asked Gao Feng while thinking about the civil and martial duels that Gao Feng had mentioned. Is there any explanation for the challenges in the duel arena? Gao Feng thought for a moment and said, the literary arena, the martial arena, and the duel arena. These 3 arenas test one's true ability and knowledge. Everything is decided by strength. The martial arena and the civil and martial arena. In terms of the martial arena, strength is naturally respected, and the victor will be decided through battle. However, it might not be the same for the civil and martial creation master contest. It is said that the Moon Empress, Chef Supreme and Bamboo Monarch will decide the contest of the civil and martial creation master's abilities on the spot. I think it will be very exciting. At this time, Gao Feng's tone was completely that of an onlooker. Lin Yuan listened to Gao Feng's words and carefully measured his own strength in his heart. Compared to ordinary creation masters, Lin Yuan's weakness had always been enhancing phase grades. Now that he was a B-rank spirit chi professional, he could rely on his physique to filter spirit chi into phase and successfully evolve them to gold. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the ability to upgrade phase grades was vaguely at the standard of a Class 3 creation master. As for enhancing phase quality and using pure spirit chi to induce phase mutations, Class 3 creation masters simply couldn't compare with him. To put it bluntly, Lin Yuan felt that his ability to use pure spirit chi to induce phase to mutate was even inferior to the Bamboo Monarch, one of the 3 Class 5 creation masters. Otherwise, he would not have had the chance to meet Wuxia. In combat, Lin Yuan's strongest offensive ability was still the Jasmine Lily's reverse healing and the exclusive skill, Spirit Essence Burst, which he had never tried before. In terms of defensive capabilities, Lin Yuan did not activate the Source Sand's automatic defense. It could be said that his mental defense and elemental defense had reached a relatively high level. With the massive amount of mental power in Genius Mind as a unit of expansion, Lin Feng was able to use it as a unit of expansion. Lin Yuan felt that even a diamond/fantasy breed Fae that was adept at mental attacks would suffer when it launched a mental attack against him. Elemental attacks would not be able to get close to Lin Yuan's body and would be diverted to another dimension by the ethereal jellyfish. The first time, end of this chapter, that you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.